Key things is to make sure we know who all our partners are. And the port, because of its location, its operations, we have a number of agencies that we work with on a daily basis. We're very lucky to have our Coast Guard as one of our key partners. And we work very closely with our Long Beach partners on how to prepare for a tsunami. And it's not just a tsunami as we would look for you and I, it's really operational. What would a tsunami do to the port?
Yes.
So what we do is, of course, the first thing is plan. And it's never just the plan, it's the planning process. Who do you bring in? What do you talk about? What plans do you have? When have you updated them? Who's involved? And most importantly, like we've talked about, is how do you get the messaging out? The correct message at the right time with the right information will help all of those individual agencies make their own individual decisions, which impacts how we respond together.
What's the economic impact of something happening down at the port? I mean, I know there's a lot of, because we're talking tsunamis and there's a lot of buzz about tsunamis in this particular point in time because it's, tsunami awareness time. But there's an enormous economic impact if anything happens down at the port.
That's a huge impact. And we have a huge team at our highest executive level, Gene Soroka. We proudly put out we are open and operational on a daily basis. And if we're not, that has significant impact. But again, it depends on the month, the time, the day, and if there's damage, how quickly can we recover and get the ships moving. And it's an entire, it's that wheel of you have the ship, you have rail, you have transit, you have the truck lines, the roadways, the bridges, the thoroughfares. Everything has to be working in a very coordinated way to make sure that we get the commerce in and out as safely as possible.
Thank you so much, Anna. This has been such a great opportunity to learn so many things that I had no clue about, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity.
All right.
With film production slowly coming back to Los Angeles due to the pandemic, an important cog in that machine is also gearing up to help cameras get rolling again. We spoke to Paul Otley of Film LA, who assures us productions will be well educated to manage filming despite COVID-19 still being around.
So Film LA is a not-for-profit organization that was created more than 25 years ago when the city and county merged their film offices to manage the film permit process for them. Film LA now represents multiple cities in the county as well as several school districts as their film office. Last year, on March 12th, we shut down the office and furloughed most of the staff, recognizing that the film industry would not function. And Film LA is funded with no government money, so it depends on activity levels in order to have a budget. When filming started to trickle back in June, we began to bring employees back in and help the industry get going again. But came back pretty heavy in February, representing over 75% of normal permit volume in February. A lot of people have questions about how to operate in the COVID environment. And so on our webpage, there is a whole series of questions and answers and documents that people can refer to under COVID-19 resource page. It includes the county's document called Appendix J and references to the industry's agreements about how to operate. We're also now debuting and in test mode with some of our customers a brand new permit system, which will include geographic information systems, a joint financial record system, and a really newly streamlined version of what's been called OPS, or the permit system. And we do a lot of public education, both of the industry and community, to make sure that filmmaking is positive in Los Angeles. We're very excited about the future as filming returns as an economic driver for Los Angeles.
In honor of Women's History Month, we spoke with two LA City employees who have risen through the ranks of their respective departments. Margaret Stewart found a third career as an LA firefighter, and Superintendent Sylvia Torres broke stereotypes about what is seen as man's work. Check out their stories.
Being a firefighter was a third career for me. It was my initial pathway. I had mentors that I looked at in terms of fulfilling their passion. What was it they were passionate about, and what did they do? And so those kinds of things encouraged me to follow what I found passion in. And that's why I ended up changing careers, feeling like it mattered what I did, being a part of the team, having that mission that helped the public. I missed that. And so kind of using those guides that my mentors had set up for me is what brought me into the field of firefighting. I'm currently assigned as the A Shift Public Service Officer. So we work out of our 911 dispatch center, and we provide public and media alerts regarding any significant incident. One of the misconceptions is that we're kind of waiting around, sitting around watching TV, waiting for the phone to ring or the tones to go off. While there are days where we're out on unbelievable incidents that you remember for a lifetime, the majority of what we do is running medical calls and fire calls that may not seem extraordinary, but for the person involved that day it is. Being confident that you're making the choices based on what's right for you. For me, becoming a firefighter, while it seemed odd to many people, I knew that it was the right choice for me. I think that's a lifelong challenge, is just being confident in knowing what you want and being willing to go for it.
We have over 200,000 lights that the city has functioning. We have over 400 styles of lights. We maintain the lights. Construction-wise, I make sure that streets that do not have any lights, we install brand new lights. I'm also in charge of the LED program, which is upgrading the old yellow lights with a newer white light that is more efficient, less wattage, so it uses less power. Como un estudiante, y pude subir de grado a llegar a mi posición. Comencé siendo estudiante, después fui asistente electricista, después fui electricista, después supervisora, ahora soy superintendente. This is a role, a type of a job that we do not have hardly any women in it. So trying to show the people, having them give me the opportunity to show to them that I could go ahead and be able to do the work. It was kind of rough in the beginning. A lot of people did not believe being that I'm a woman, because the type of work that we do here, we do a lot of jackhammering, we dig a lot of holes, very manpower type of a work. So that was one of the hurdles, just give me a chance. I think I can do it. And it's a wonderful job that I have. Working for street lighting and being part of street lighting is one of the greatest things I can say that I have done.
As workers and breadwinners, women can do just as good a job as men. We all know that one, right? And yet disparities will exist on pay equity and public policy. Councilwomen Nithya Raman and Monica Rodriguez dropped by Channel 35 to remind us that the whole point of Women's History Month is that we still have work to do.
Hi, I'm Councilwoman Monica Rodriguez from the 7th District.
And I'm Councilwoman Nithya Raman from the 4th District. I stepped up to run for office because I was inspired by young people stepping up to make change right now.
For me, it's about reminding everybody that their voice matters, that activism doesn't begin at a certain age, and it certainly doesn't begin when you're 18 years old.
I think what, for me, this particular Women's Heritage Month has drawn attention to is really this sense of, let's not forget the lessons of this moment. And let's make sure that in a year's time and in 10 years' time, that we're not still putting these barriers in women's paths as they're trying to work outside of the home, as they're trying to balance childcare and their professional lives, as they're trying to dig themselves out of poverty. Let us take away the barriers that I know a more active and more thoughtful government infrastructure can do.
To have perceived that gender roles had really transformed substantially, that notion was killed during this pandemic. Women retained that primary responsibility of being the caretaker, having to manage all those things, and that's why we saw such an attrition of women in the workforce. But I think, to underscore Nithya's point, we need to fund universal childcare and make it equitably accessible for trusted sources. Women need to know that their children are going to be cared for and that they're going to be not have to be forced into a position of making the decision of either being able to go to work and how to manage that and offset with childcare costs. It makes it very difficult for women to remain in these positions and continue to advance.
The unspoken burdens that women carry, all of those have become apparent now.
You know, women are still not making the equivalent, you know, dollar for dollar earnings. We Latinas are still substantially, 63 cents to the dollar of what their male counterparts earn. Those are some of the huge disparities that we still need to work past. And this is why I've had a majority women staff. I've got 80% of my staff is comprised of women. 100% of my leadership team are women. And it's because we need to continue to advance that work and creating opportunities for women to lead.
We can't go back to what was there before this moment. We can only move forward. And I think we have to hold on to those lessons and make sure that we're fighting for that change going forward.
Join the Chinese American Museum as they welcome the Year of the Ox. The celebration will feature an online exhibition of 14 Asian American artists from throughout the nation. Guest curated by Albert Chow of Grumpy Bert, the exhibition commemorates the metal ox, an animal symbolically known for strength and resilience. Be sure to check out Chinese American Museum's The Year of the Metal Ox. It's online now through June 6th. For details, visit exhibitions.camla.org. Log on for a discussion of George Takei's graphic memoir, They Called Us Enemy. The memoir tells the story of Takei's imprisonment in a World War II Japanese-American concentration camp. This LA-made program will include an intergenerational conversation on racial injustice and reconciliation. LA-Made's They Call Us Enemy programming lands on the YouTube and Facebook pages for the LA Public Library Thursday, April 15th at 4 p.m. For more information, visit lapl.org/events. Are you ready to dust off your grill and make some barbecue? Join Fremont Branch Library for Fremont Foodies Soul Food Edition. Pitmaster Calvin Thomas and his wife Carol will be teaching the secrets of barbecuing ribs. They will even share a family recipe for barbecue beans with the class. Don't miss out on Fremont Foodies Soul Food Edition, happening Friday, April 16th at 3 p.m. For more information, visit lapl.org/events. And that's a look at some virtual things to do.
And that's it for this edition. I'm Natalia Bilbao, and from all of us here at LA This Week, thank you so much for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org, and we're also on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. See you next time for more LA This Week.
Okay, good morning and welcome to the Los Angeles City Council. Today is April 14th. I'm Nuri Martinez, the President of the City Council. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Blumenfield.
Blumenfield present.
Bonin.
Bonin present.
Buscaino.
Here.
Cedillo.
Here.
De Leon.
Here.
Harris Dawson.
Marquise is here.
Koretz.
Present.
Krikorian.
Here.
Lee. Martinez.
Present.
O'Farrell.
Present.
Price.
Here and present.
Rahman.
Here.
Ridley Thomas.
Here.
Rodriguez. Thirteen members and a quorum, Madam President.
First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. De Leon moves and Mr. O'Farrell seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Blumenfield moves and Mr. Ridley Thomas seconds.
Madam President, would council like all items to go forthwith today?
Without objection, that will be the order. Next.
There has been a request to continue item 52 to next Tuesday, April 20th.
Without objection, that would be the order. Next.
Items 1 through 19 are items for which public hearings have been held. Items 20 through 51 are items for which public hearings have not been held. A Budget and Finance Committee report has been submitted for item 46 and posted to Council File 21-0384. Further, a motion is required for item 41, and it should be held on the desk. Items 52 and 53 are items scheduled for closed session. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, without objections, those items are now before us. Members, do you wish to call any of these items special? Mr. Lee?
Thank you, Madam President. Item number 40.
This is for comments, or do you wish to introduce an amending motion?
Just for comments.
Thank you.
That'll be it.
Members, are there any other items you wish to call special? Okay, seeing none. Madam Clerk, which are the available items for us to vote on?
At this time, Madam President, council may vote on items 1 through 19.
Okay, let's go ahead and prepare to vote. Oh, Mr. Koretz?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I'd like to call item 39 special for discussion.
Okay, members, any other items that you wish to call special before we vote on items 1 through 19? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and call the roll on items 1 through 19, Madam Clerk.
Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Bonin.
Bonin, aye.
Buscaino.
Aye.
Cedillo.
Yeah. Cedillo, aye.
De Leon. Councilmember De Leon.
Aye.
Thank you. Harris Dawson.
Yes.
Koretz.
Aye.
Krikorian.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
O'Farrell.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Rahman.
Yes.
Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
15 ayes. These items are adopted.
Okay, Madam Clerk, or Mr. City Attorney, can we go ahead and vote on item 53? Mr. Krikorian, would you like to speak on that item?
Thank you very much, Madam President. This is a matter that's been considered by Budget and Finance, which recommends approval of the City Attorney's recommendation for settlement. It can be done in open session unless members have questions or concerns.
Members, are there any questions on this item? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, do you want to read out the information on item 53?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. For item 53, in the case entitled Delia Sarmiento versus the City of Los Angeles, the recommendation is to expend up to $750,000 in settlement of the matter.
Okay, please call the roll on item 53.
Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Bonin.
Bonin, aye.
Buscaino,
Aye.
Cedillo,
Cedillo, aye.
De Leon,
Aye.
Harris Dawson,
Yes.
Koretz,
Aye.
Krikorian,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Martinez,
Aye.
O'Farrell,
Aye.
Price,
Aye.
Rahman,
Yes.
Ridley Thomas,
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
15 ayes, this item is adopted.
Mr. Koretz?
Oh. No, that's an old hand. Sorry about that. I'll remove them.
Mr. Krikorian?
Yes, sorry, Madam President. I'm not sure if I missed this earlier, but I'd like to call item 41 special if this is the appropriate time to do that for
Yes.
purposes of an amendment.
Okay, and I believe your amendment's been circulated, Mr. City Attorney. Do you want to speak to that?
Yes, Mr. Koretz, it's rather long. Would you like me to?
Mr. Krikorian?
Mr. Krikorian, my apologies. Would you like me to read out the motion that you've introduced for item 41?
If you need to do that, yes.
I think I will. It's long. It's sort of along the lines of what Mr. Cedillo read out a few weeks ago. So bear with me, but I'd like to read it out before we take public comment. So it's the recommendations for item number 41, and they are: first, find pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15074B, after consideration of the whole administrative record, including the ENV-2019-7321-EMD, and all comments received, with the imposition of mitigation measures, there is no substantial evidence that the project will have a significant effect on the environment. Find that the MND reflects the independent judgment and analysis of the city. Find that the mitigation measures have been made enforceable conditions on the project, and adopt the MND and the MMP prepared for the MND. 2, adopt the findings of the Los Angeles City Planning Commission, the LACPC, as the findings of council attached to the council file. 3, present and adopt the accompanying ordinance amending section 12.04 of the Los Angeles Municipal Code by amending the zoning map relative to a vesting zone change for MR2-1LV to TQM2-2D, subject to the T and Q conditions of approval, and a height district change from 1LV to 2D, subject to the D limitations and the conditions of approval, for the demolition of an existing 4,300 square foot one-story building and surface parking lot used for storage of vehicles, and the construction, use, and maintenance of a 138,035 square foot mixed-use building with a maximum of 124,371 square feet of self-storage uses, and a minimum of 13,664 square feet of office suites to be operated as artist and makerspace serving visual and performing artists, including programming such as gallery openings. The building will be 45 feet in height with 4 stories and 1 basement level. The project will have a total floor area ratio, FAR, of 2:1, providing up to 63 vehicle parking spaces and a surface parking lot in 16 long-term and 16 short-term bicycle parking spaces for the properties located at 5444 through 5458 North Vineland Avenue and 5437 through 5451 North Cleon Avenue, subject to the conditions of approval. Pursuant to condition number 2, the use and development of the project property shall be in substantial conformance with the site plan and elevations labeled Exhibit A attached to the subject case file. Minor deviations may be allowed in order to comply with the provisions of the municipal code and the conditions of approval. Number 4, advise the applicant pursuant to Los Angeles Municipal Code Section 12.32G the following. Property shall not remain in a Q-qualified classification for more than 6 years unless during that time, 1, there's no substantial physical development of the property to allow for one or more of the uses for which the Q qualified condition was adopted, or 2, if no physical development is necessary, then the property is used for one or more of the purposes for which the Q qualified classification was adopted. When these time limitations expire, the Q qualified classification and the authority contained therein shall become null and void, the rezoning proceedings shall be terminated, and the property thereafter may only be utilized for those purposes permitted prior to the commencement of such rezoning proceedings. 5, advise the applicant that pursuant to State Public Resources Code Section 21081.6, the city shall monitor or require evidence that mitigation conditions are implemented and maintained throughout the life of the project, and the city may require any necessary fees to cover the cost of such monitoring. And finally, 6, advise the applicant that pursuant to State Fish and Game Section 711.4, a fish and game fee and/or certificate of fee exemption is now required to be submitted to the county clerk prior to or concurrent with the environmental notice of determination filing. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and my apologies to members for the highly technical and lengthy amendment about a modest but very good project. So my apologies.
Yeah, we need a second.
We need
by
a
the way.
second, Mr. Kokorian. Is there a second?
Second. Second.
Second by Mr. Koretz.
Second.
Is that it, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Koretz?
Thank you, Madam President. I have a short and non-technical amendment to item 36. I'd like to amend item 36 to add assistance.
Hold on
to
for just a
businesses-
second, sir. Hold on for just a second. Mr. Koretz, you had previously called 39 special for
Yes,
discussion.
this is 36. It was my error not to call it earlier.
Okay, so now you want to call special item 36 for a technical amendment?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure how technical it is, just for a very short amendment.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to amend item 36 to add assistance to businesses that have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Buscaino.
Second.
Thank you. Any other specials, members? Okay, let's move on to public comment. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Madam President. And as indicated on the agenda, members of the public wishing to offer public comment should call 669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 160-535-8466 and press pound. Press pound again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press star 9 to request to speak. And finally, when you hear the last 4 digits of your phone number, press star 6. And again, call 669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 160-535-8466 and press pound. Press pound again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press star 9 to request to speak. And finally, when you hear the last 4 digits of your phone number, press star 6.
So to members of the public calling in to speak, when it's your turn, please state which of the agenda items you'd like to speak on. You have 1 minute per item to speak, up to 3 minutes total. And if you wish 1 minute for general public comment, please begin with the items before general public comment. We'll tell you when your time's up. When speaking on the agenda items, you must be on topic. Our goal is to get through as many speakers as we can. If you're not speaking on topic, if we can't tell whether you're on topic, you'll get one brief warning from me or the president. If you don't immediately get clearly on topic or again stray off topic, you will be cut off and you'll forfeit the rest of your speaking time, and we'll move on to the next speaker. We'll take 30 minutes total public comment, and the items that are open for public comment are items 20 through 51. 52 has been continued. So again, that's 20 through 51. Finally, for members of the public calling in to speak, as soon as you hear someone address you, either by reading out the last 4 digits of your phone number or other identifying information if you're calling in via a block number, it's your turn. Please immediately press star 6 to unmute yourself and tell us which items you want to speak on. We understand that you may be listening on channel 35 or a computer or other device. If you are, Please keep one ear to the phone, though, because there's a slight time delay between the live meeting and the broadcast. And if you're not listening on the phone, you may not hear us right away when we say it's your turn, and you may not press star six quickly enough, and we'll think you're no longer on the line, and we'll move on to the next speaker. Finally, also, if you are listening on another device, please turn down the volume on the other device right away when you hear us identify you, because if you keep listening on the other device, because of the time delay and feedback, it is going to cause a lot of confusion. Thank you very much, Madam President, and we are ready to take public comment.
Okay, let's take the first caller.
Caller ending in 4208, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
8, Rob Kwan. I'd like to speak on items 20, 46, and general public comment.
Sure. So you have 2 minutes for the items, followed by 1 minute for general public comment. Please begin, Mr. Kwan.
Thank you, Fabel. For item 20, I just think it's always worth noting with this local emergency that this council has continued to fail to utilize its power to commandeer the hotels. And once again, you continue to cancel your meetings every single week. For item 46, we have that infamous DWP case, one that Mike Fuhrer campaigned on his ability to turn this into hundreds of millions of dollars for the city. And in actuality, it's going to cost us millions of dollars. And here it's going to cost us $80,000 to pay for lawyers, to pay for a city attorney who had to interview with the feds. For my general public comment, I just want to speak briefly about the LA Alliance case and that proposed settlement. It's really clear with what you've got brewing that in no way is this about housing people or actually addressing homelessness. This is about finding a justification to sweep them. Shame on all of you. And it's just funny to hear so many of you talk about Echo Park Lake as a model and the need for a quote-unquote choice days. Well, in your settlement, you talk about 14 days notice. How does that align with the 0 days notice that residents got before cops rolled in? And with the LAPD and all of these reports going around, all this talk about training, I think it's worth remembering they can't even use baton. Something as simple as a baton, they can't find a way to use within policy. How the hell can we trust them with 40 millimeter less lethals or with guns, tasers, everything else you hand over to them with no checks? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kwan.
Next speaker.
Caller ending in 3020, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, my name is Luke. I'd like to comment for general public comment, specifically the motion to remove police from traffic stops.
You have a minute. Please begin.
Sure. I implore this council to listen to its constituents and what we are asking you, and to immediately move forward with the motion to remove police from traffic stops in the name of Daunte Wright. We have no need for armed officers at traffic stops, and had this motion been in place countrywide, so many would still be alive. Philando Castile would still be alive today. Daunte Wright would still be alive today. You know, you say that criminals are armed and dangerous, but we have seen consistently over and over again in Los Angeles that the police are the ones who are armed and dangerous, who are harming people. So please do not let these armed and dangerous criminals take the life of another innocent person. Do not let another child grow up without a parent because of your inaction. Please move forward with this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Next speaker.
Caller ending in 9632, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
I'd just like to offer a general public comment.
You have a minute. Please begin.
I am, quite frankly, appalled and disgusted by the inaction of the city council on multiple issues. But in light of the unrest in this country due to the murder of Daunte Wright, I find it abhorrent that this council has not taken immediate action to remove police from traffic stops. Among that, there is also still pending the establishment of a youth development department, still getting oil drilling out of our city to help the health of our communities. and a list of other issues that this council simply does not act on because it does not serve the interests of its constituents. And I am tired of coming into these meetings which get canceled. You guys do not fulfill your duties. You guys have abdicated your duties in order to turn this into a open air prison run by police. And it is disgusting that there are no council members who are willing to go against this culture of consensus and murder in this city in order to serve the constituents.
Next speaker.
Caller ending in 7649, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
April Jones, general public comment.
Please go ahead. You have a minute.
Hi, I'd just like to thank the council for all of your hard work over the pandemic and beyond. I know you do so much and you get a lot of flack for a lot of the things that are going wrong, but we just want to thank you and let you know that there are a lot of us out here who do support the hard work and the many hours that you're putting in. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Speaker.
Repeat that, please.
Caller ending in 6068, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, yes, this is Richie Sergenko from People City Council. I'd like to speak on 47 and general public comment, please.
Sure, you have a minute for each. Please begin.
Yeah, I just want to say that last person is ridiculous, saying City Council has worked many hours. You all canceled Friday meetings since last year. But talking about number 47, about, this is about how sanitation workers or sanitation is going to come talk about how their services with Unhoused are going. But if they're actually out there, if these sanitation workers are coming in to discuss with City Council, they're going to talk about how brutal the Care Plus sweeps are. And most of the people on the council right now only care about ending visible homelessness than actually ending homelessness. The discussion needs to be about how to remove police from dealing with unhoused people. How do we get people into permanent housing? Mitch O'Farrell is going on a publicity tour to distract from what he did in Echo Park, and I'll go on to my general public comment. What Mitch did in Echo Park is, a catastrophe. Ordered Garcetti, Mitch, and Moore fucking ordered hundreds of cops to come into Echo Park to brutalize and sweep unhoused residents and their allies that came to defend them. I'm calling in solidarity with Black Lives Matter LA and People's Budget LA to demand that you all move forward with the motion to remove police from traffic stops in the name of Dante Wright. What happened to Dante Wright in Minneapolis is not unique to Minneapolis. This happens in Los Angeles. LAPD has shot 14 people in the year of 2021, and you all give $3 billion fucking dollars to the police. You all are fucking complicit in this shit, okay? You take money from the LAPPL, you give money to the LAPD, $3 billion. Mitch fucking orders hundreds of cops to come brutalize us.
Next speaker.
Caller ending in 7719, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Thank you. It's Eric Freven from Studio City. I'll first take a quick shot at item 46, if I may, but several other items follow. So just sit quietly and let's try to enjoy this. The LADWP lawsuit, Mike Fior, they just think we're stupid. If you listen to the deposition of Mike Fior for the case that they're talking about, where Price Waterhouse and the in-house city attorneys were canoodling with the same attorneys who were representing the people suing the city, it's so appalling that it's beyond belief. So this is a matter where one of the employees was quickly identified for retaliation and then released after they spent 141 hours with an attorney amounting to $100,000, $98,000. But here's the thing, the city attorney wisely saw an opportunity to negotiate a 20% discount, bringing the total fee that the public had to pay to $80,000. Fantastic. These guys are doing a great job. Now, item 48, you've got the LADOT Conduent contract. Now, Conduent took a page from Taser and changed their name to Conduent from Xerox because everybody knew that Xerox was cutting the ribbon with Mayor Garcetti as they tallied up the increasing revenue from parking fines on people. So this is not a great warm story about LA soaring above $75 million coming out of people for putting their car on the side of the road. Instead, it started to fall, and now we have the pandemic, so we should just find a different methodology. And Mike Bonin, who's, seems like he's running for mayor as a progressive, he's got all of the boxes checked, but this guy rolled out more traps to cite people across Los Angeles through his Department of Transportation committee than anybody in the history of Los Angeles. It's astonishing. It's a wire up. So $750,000 in the legal settlement out the door to settle a retaliation lawsuit made me think about the very first item on your agenda, which is under the section marked you can't talk about.
So, Mr. Previn, I think you're referring to the last item, 53, which we voted on, which you're free to talk about in general public comment if you want to go to that.
No, I would rather talk about item 1 in the public hearing. And also, I'll forget it. Let's talk about Krikorian's item, Capital Holdings LLC. I really appreciated the lengthy attempt to lull the public into a deep slumber by going through all of that stuff without any, it was very hard to follow. But I want to say thanks to the lobbyist, Craig Lawson. This is a guy who's done an outstanding job of building a very, very helpful business. One question though, because it is CD2, what about Tina Choi and the widening of Ventura Boulevard and the evaporation of that very costly condition for Sportsman's Lodge? In other words, who fixed it?
You can go into general public comment if you want, Mr. Previn. Mr. Previn, do you want to give your general public comment? I think Mr. Previn hung up.
Next speaker.
Caller ending in 7364, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Lydia Leasing for general public comment.
You have a minute. Please begin.
Good morning, council members. My name is Lydia Leasing with the Los Angeles Youth First Tobacco Coalition. I'm just here today to inform you and educate that the best way for local communities to reduce underage purchases of flavored and e-cigarette products is to specifically include these products in retail licensing ordinances. Many Black, Indigenous, and people of color tend to have more tobacco retailers in their neighborhoods. According to the California Department of Public Health, there were more tobacco stores near schools in those neighborhoods, attracting those youth to experiment with tobacco. Again, I would like to inform you that a comprehensive ordinance ending the sale of flavored tobacco, including menthol flavored tobacco products without exemptions for hookah or adult-only tobacco shops would best protect the vulnerable youth in our communities.
Caller ending in 3656, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hey, Ron, speaking for a general public comment.
Sure, you have a minute. Please begin.
Good morning, members of the Los Angeles City Council. My name is Helen with Los Angeles Youth First Tobacco Coalition. I'm here today to educate you that the tobacco industry's predatory marketing tactics and enticing flavors affect everyone. And while most tobacco users start when they're young, adults are the ones dying from tobacco-related diseases. Menthol and flavor sale restrictions used in conjunction with other tobacco control policies are the best approach to save lives, according to the California Department of Public Health. I'd like to inform you that a comprehensive ordinance ending the sale of flavored tobacco, including menthol flavored tobacco products, and without exemptions for hookah or adult-only tobacco shops, would best protect the vulnerable youth in our communities from the youth vaping epidemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Caller ending in 8898, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, my name is Yesenia Banuelos, and I would like to do a general public comment.
You have a minute. Please begin.
Okay. Hello, my name is Yesenia Banuelos, and I am a student at California State University, Los Angeles. I want to express to the City Council that the use of flavored tobacco products, including e-cigarettes, menthol cigarettes, flavored hookah, and flavored cigars, is becoming more prevalent among the youth. More than 15,000 different flavors attract the youth to buy these products, and the nicotine in them is causing them to become addicted. I urge the City Council to support a strong policy that ends the sale of all flavored tobacco products without exemptions. I often find myself going for a walk around my community and seeing kids barely old enough to be teenagers using these products. As a resident of Los Angeles, we need to protect all youth from easily having access to these products by restricting them. Ending the sale of all flavored tobacco products will help prevent nicotine addiction and protect the health of all communities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Speaker.
Next speaker.
Caller ending in 0899, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items
Hello.
you'd like to speak on.
My name is Stacy Dawson Stearns, and I would like to speak on item 47 and general public comment, please.
You have a minute for each. Please begin.
All right. I just would like to address the council and ask that you listen to my voice as I'm speaking to you as a constituent and an Angelino. Okay, item 47. I don't know what you're going to hear today from the Department of Sanitation, but I just want to offer my thoughts to you about the way in which we are all participating in a cycle of dehumanization and violence. Now, it's clear by now that the city is struggling to address the crisis of homelessness. And I would wish to offer to you that there's not one single magic spell that's going to make this come to an end. But I can offer to you this, and I ask all of you to accept that the ire and the rage that you're hearing from the public is coming from a place of deep trauma, okay? I know it's hard for you to hear it, but you need to understand. What we are doing by employing the sanitation workers and looping them into a cycle of violence, working alongside LAPD, is criminal. Because we are harming the people on the street. We are harming sanitation workers. When you employ someone takes a job, and then the next thing they're being asked, and in order to keep their job, they're actually finding themselves throwing people's personal belongings, medications, personal papers, birth certificates, and homes into a garbage truck. You are dehumanizing them. This is the way that this works. And when people start participating in dehumanizing and violent behavior, that is a crime against them because it starts to perpetuate a cycle, and we're all participating in it. And I beg you to lay it down and start to think about exactly what we are doing in Los Angeles. This is not the culture that we want. I want to move on to general public comment. We must take immediate steps to remove officers from traffic stops. I'm calling in solidarity with Black Lives Matter and every single person in this world who can't wake up another day to find out that a young person has been ripped from their life by violent police officers. Okay, you guys passed that motion in February unanimously.
Thank you, Speaker.
Caller ending in 7677, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, Morgan for general public comment.
You have 1 minute for each. Please begin.
I'm a mom and pop landlord here in Echo Park, and I'd like to voice my support for the council and Mitchell Farrell for the successful and temporary closure of Echo Park Lake for construction that was due to the damage from the illegal encampment there. The community here believes the lake is for everyone. That was taken away by the encampment.
So,
crime in
Speaker,
the neighborhood from the encampment was rampant. Not to mention 4 people died.
Speaker, sorry to interrupt you, but 44 involves the airport. You can talk about all of that in general public comment if you want, or maybe you meant a different item.
General public comment, please.
Okay.
And for people complaining about the police presence there, I believe it wouldn't have escalated to such a large number if it weren't for Street Watch LA firing up their uninformed Instagram followers to block the removal of the homeless who were not agreeing to leave or accept the free housing offered to them. Thanks, guys, for all your hard work.
Thank you, Speaker.
Caller in 0764, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Caller ending in, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Mickey Jackson, general public comment, item 39.
So, okay, you have a minute for each. Please begin with item 39, if you would.
Okay. Item 39 is an extremely complicated issue. We have received poor and incorrect information at the city council meeting, at the last meeting, a good deal of it. We need much more time to have this studied and to clarify many points. This is so complicated. Much information has come to light just in the last week, and I think we need to refer this to the department. We need to refer this to committee. It has to be studied. This is too serious to take a hasty vote on and to have all sorts of conflicting information. How can the city council credibly say it is trying to increase affordable housing if it votes to support a bill, SB 832, to wipe out the only existing affordable housing requirements and tenant protection in the city? The council must not support this very radical bill. My public comment is that we need to open our city meetings in person with appropriate safety precautions immediately. Most of the city has reopened, and the fact that the center of the city, the People's House, City Hall, is closed is harmful to our city and to our people. The public has not been able to address council on items as promoted in the Brown Act. We are grouped into one mass group to speak. You have no idea what items the public is trying to speak on. We're cut off en masse, whether for specific item comment or public comment, after an arbitrary block of time. We have no idea how many people are cut off or what they were going to comment on. I fear we are at least in violation of the Brown Act, and we need to restore order and comply with both courtesy and basic.
Thank you, Speaker. Next speaker.
Caller ending in 5776, press *6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, my name is Kate Montanez. I'm just here for general public comment.
Sure. Please begin. You have a minute.
Okay, first of all, I just want to say, even if that caller's not here, there's no such thing as a mom and pop landlord, so fuck you. Second, I implore you to move forward with the motion to remove police from traffic stops in the name of Dante Wright. We absolutely do not need them, let alone armed police in any traffic stops. There are white supremacists who violently assail and kill black and brown folks, and that comes from the very root of policing and the biases that they are taught. To Nithya and Mike, those who claim to be progressive and don't want to say defund the police, but let's fund services instead, why are you afraid to speak out and say what you actually mean? You all in City Council should be ashamed if you do not move forward for the motion to remove police from traffic stops. You all will be culpable. You all have blood on your hands. Very specific fuck you to Mitchell Farrell. You are a disgusting cockroach. And the fact that the rest of the council members did not wholly denounce his actions in Echo Park, you are all complicit, and you continue to be responsible for all of the lives lost in LA. Fuck you. Remove police from traffic stops. And fuck you, Mitch. Resign.
Thank you.
Next
Thank you, Speaker. Next speaker.
Caller ending in 0911, press *6 to unmute yourself. Caller ending in 0911, press *6 to unmute yourself. Caller ending in 7641, press *6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Gustavo Herrera, item 40.
You have a minute. Please begin.
Good morning, Madam President Martinez and members of the council. Happy Arts Month to you all. My name is Gustavo Herrera, Executive Director of Arts for LA. We are the regional arts and culture advocacy organization that represents approximately 70,000 arts advocates and over 150 arts and cultural organizations in the region. I call today to express my strong support for item number 40. Councilmember Lee, O'Farrell, and Blumenfield's resolution committing to support artists and creative workers with federal stimulus dollars. Arts workers in LA have been devastated by the pandemic. Over 100,000 creative sector jobs have been lost in the region, and the devastation has been disproportionately impacted BIPOC creatives, workers, and BIPOC-led organizations. The arts make LA the creative capital of the world. We must invest in the small businesses and arts workers that keep our communities healthy, sustainable, and equitable. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Caller ending in 7148, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Caller ending in 7148, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, good morning, Council. I'm speaking on public opinion.
Please go ahead. You have a minute.
Good morning, members of the Los Angeles City Council. My name is Teresa Ruby, and I am a student of University of Southern California. And I stand with the coalition members of LA Families Fighting Flavored Tobacco. We are here today to encourage you to move decisively to pass a comprehensive ordinance that ends the sale of flavored tobacco, including menthol-flavored tobacco products and without exemptions for hookah or adult-only tobacco shops. Just like Los Angeles County, we want strong laws ending the sale of flavored tobacco products. From research conducted here at USC, we know that strong laws will protect youth from accessing flavored tobacco and cheap tobacco products and will prevent a lifetime of tobacco addiction among Los Angeles youth. This is an epidemic that can be prevented, so please join us in a growing number of Angelinas who are standing up to beat big tobacco. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Next speaker.
Caller ending in 1474, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Good morning, Michael Shilstone with Central City Association. I'd like to speak on item 39, please.
You have a minute. Please begin.
We are strongly supportive of the City Council resolution in favor of AB 832, and we appreciate Councilmember O'Farrell's leadership and advocacy on this issue. The dissolution of redevelopment agencies in 2012 did not end the land use authorities of the redevelopment plans, which can be more restrictive than local zoning and leads to confusion regarding development entitlements. This has been a particular issue for those participating in the TOC affordable housing program approved by the voters and in our most walkable and transit-rich areas, including downtown, Koreatown, and Hollywood. AB 832 would resolve issues between former redevelopment plans and our current community plans and affordable housing tools. We're hopeful for the state's speedy approval of AB 832 to address our urgent affordability and environmental challenges, and we know that having the support of the City Council is crucial. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Next speaker.
Caller ending in 4877, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, good morning. My name is Said Answategi. I'm an actor, and I'm your constituent in 13 and 4. And I am calling for general public as a trans person and non-binary constituent. I align myself with the Black Lives Matter to remove police from traffic stops in the name of Dante Wright. Police have long history of killing brown, black, indigenous folks as a white supremacist group. And City Council directly does fund and have a lot of influence. And I would like to urge you to address this and to actually not have armed officers at traffic lights, so we could actually stop the murders from happening. I can't believe I'm calling in for this, but I am. I'm calling in for humanity, for us to stop this cycle, to stop relying on police.
Thank you, Speaker.
Next speaker.
Caller ending in 1454, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, my name is Livana. I would like to have a general public comment.
Of course, please begin. You have a minute.
Hi, my name is Livana. I'm from Cal State LA. I'm a student. I want to express to the City Council that the use of all flavored tobacco products, including e-cigarettes, menthol cigarettes, flavored hookah, and flavored cigars, is becoming more prevalent among the youth. According to the latest data from the 2020 National Youth Tobacco Survey, 19.6% of high school students and 4.7% of middle school students were current e-cigarette users. Menthol cigarettes target youth and African Americans. I think ending the sale of all flavored tobacco, such as hookah, cigars, and menthol products, would greatly decrease the use of tobacco products in all ages. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, members. That concludes public comment for today's meeting. Members, let's go ahead and vote on the following items. Items 20 through 35, items 37 and 38, items 42 through 46, and items 48 through 51. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Bonin.
Bonin, aye.
Buscaino.
Aye.
Cedillo.
Aye.
De Leon.
Aye.
Harris Dawson.
Yes.
Koretz.
Aye.
Krikorian.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
O'Farrell.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Rahman.
Yes.
Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
15 ayes. These items are adopted.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote on item 36 as amended. Go ahead and please call the roll.
Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Bonin.
Bonin, aye.
Buscaino.
Aye.
Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
De Leon.
Aye.
Harris Dawson.
Yes.
Koretz.
Aye.
Krikorian.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
O'Farrell.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Rahman.
Yes.
Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
15 ayes. This item is adopted as amended.
Okay, let's move on to item 41. Let's vote on that as amended. Please call the roll.
Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Bonin.
Bonin, aye.
Buscaino.
Aye.
Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
De Leon.
Aye.
Harris Dawson.
Yes.
Koretz.
Aye.
Krikorian.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
O'Farrell.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Rahman.
Yes.
Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
15 ayes. This item is adopted as amended.
Okay, let's move on to item number 40. This was called special for comments by Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilmember Blumenfield and Councilmember O'Farrell and I introduced a resolution to support that in any future recovery legislation that it include funding to support local art workers and the nonprofit art sector. We have over 735 nonprofit arts and cultural organizations in our city that employ over 27,000 art workers that generate over $2.2 billion in revenue for our regional economy. This resolution will show our support to an industry that has been hard hit by the last year and the pandemic that we've all been through, and show our support for an industry that not only adds to the cultural identity of Los Angeles, but is an important economic sector of our city. And I ask for an aye vote. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Let's go ahead and prepare to vote on this item. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Bonin.
Bonin, aye.
Buscaino,
Aye.
Cedillo, Councilmember Cedillo,
Cedillo, aye.
De Leon,
Aye.
Harris Dawson,
Yes.
Koretz,
Aye.
Krikorian,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Martinez,
Aye.
O'Farrell,
Aye.
Price,
Aye.
Rahman,
Yes.
Ridley Thomas,
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
15 ayes, this item is adopted.
Okay, let's move on to item number 39, which was called special by Mr. Koretz for discussion. Mr. Koretz?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the intention of this resolution, and I'm concerned that AB 832 may have unintended consequences. It would appear that the redevelopment plan requires 15% affordability in the project area, according to several court cases. And I know there are also Legal Aid Foundation representatives that are seeking amendments to ensure a one-for-one replacement for SRO tenants. I know it's been argued otherwise. I would love to see this referred to the Housing Department for analysis, or to hear from the Housing Department here today on whether they have looked at all these issues and what they've concluded.
Give me 1 second, Mr. Koretz. I'm looking for the departments. Did you request for them to be at the meeting, sir?
I did not.
You didn't? Okay, so then we don't know.
I would prefer to have it referred to the Housing Department, but I thought I would give the opportunity, at least if they were available, to
Well, we have
that
Kathy.
discussion now.
Mr. Koretz, we've got Kathy Phelan from the City Attorney's Office that can speak on this issue.
That would be great.
And we've got Mr. Weber from the Planning Department as well that just joined. Would you like to hear from either one of them?
Both would be great. Thank you.
Kathy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can. Can you?
Thank you.
Go ahead. Hi, we can see you now.
Thank you. Good morning, Council President, Council. In regards to the 15%, I'll speak to that in the court cases. There have been 4 cases where AIDS Healthcare Foundation and others have sued the city on projects challenging that they did not include this 15%. They have not prevailed in any of these cases. And the only court to actually address whether or not the 2012 dissolution law affected that requirement in redevelopment plans, which is a requirement in the original redevelopment law, found that it was no longer effective after dissolution law, that it was tied to the tax increment, because of course redevelopment agencies were required to have a set aside for low income housing. And so the only court to look at that directly said that it was dissolved. And that was the 6400 Sunset litigation, the former Amoeba project. So the city attorney's office believes that that 15% is no longer a legal requirement. And what this bill will do is give the council the authority to decide whether or not, if council wants to take that requirement from the Hollywood redevelopment plan, put it into the city's own plans and ordinances, or adopt legislative policies to implement that, they can do that. Or if you want to take some other policy action, you can do that. But what this bill is intended to do is give the power to the city council to decide the land use rules for the city. That's what AB 832 does.
I have a paragraph from one of the cases that reads, similarly, petitioners argue that each individual project must include at least 15% affordable housing. However, the 15% affordable housing requirement applies to the redevelopment area as a whole and is evaluated upon the expiration of the redevelopment plan, not a requirement that applies to each project. H&S code, and it goes to numbers, specifically refers to, actually I can't read part of this, but the next sentence is, which is the key one, each redevelopment project area must provide 15% affordable housing units over the redevelopment plan's life. So how does that not require it? It seems pretty directly that it does require affordable housing in general. And I think this is in effect till 2027, as I recall. So why would this bill not invalidate that and not require the overall affordable housing? Because I'm certainly not looking to get in the way of the goal of this, which is to allow projects to go forward. But I think this is not the time to reduce affordable housing requirements. So if we're actually doing that, I wouldn't be enthused about this bill.
Certainly, Council President, Council, I understand the confusion. I'm very familiar with that language. That is the language that was in the Crossroads decision. What the court did there was effectively punt making a decision about whether or not what the effective dissolution law was on those provisions. And they found that the law said, instead of that 15% being required on any given project, it required it on the aggregate. That's how the law was set up. And so, and the aggregate wasn't determined until the plan expired. And so the court said, we don't need to decide this now because it doesn't apply on a project, it applies on the aggregate, and we decide that when the plan expires. That's what that decision goes on to say. So they didn't look at the argument that the city put forward that upon dissolution law being in effect, those provisions were no longer effective because they were a mandate funded by tax increment. Tax increment went away, and so they were no longer effective. And the court in Crossroads basically punted and said, we don't need to decide this right now because it doesn't apply on the project. And that's what that language is saying. It doesn't apply on the project, it applies on the aggregate. You make the determination under the statute at the time the plan expires. But when the only court that has actually responded to the city's argument that the dissolution law nullified that 15% requirement said that it was nullified by the dissolution law. So that is the court you're quoting in Crossroads, they basically punted and said, we don't need to decide it. It's not a ripe issue right now. But a court that looked at the issue said, no, it was nullified by the dissolution law. And that's the city's position in these cases, and the only court to actually look at that said, no, it went away with the dissolution law.
I don't know, reading the sentence that I read seems pretty clear that we would have an obligation as of 2027 to determine whether we had fulfilled the requirement of affordable housing. And it is clear this bill would remove that requirement. So it's just not that clear to me. I wish we would have a more clear analysis on paper of this, and perhaps we would all have greater comfort, although I may be the only one that has this concern, but we would all have greater comfort in supporting this legislation.
Okay. Mr. O'Farrell?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say that the support for AB 832, the reduction of affordable housing requirements, we discussed this last week in detail, and both Ms. Phelan and Mr. Weber were here to answer the same questions. And I supported delaying this vote for a week so these questions could be answered. I hope that with the effort of my office and the planning department that some of these, some of you, your staff were briefed. I just want to say the reduction of affordable housing requirements is not even before us on this particular item today. But what is support for this body to amend the redevelopment plans as we see fit. If this passes today, nothing happens today. In fact, nothing happens until the city initiates a process to amend the requirements, which we're not even doing today. This legislation will enable the city to amend the land use authorities of the redevelopment plan through city processes rather than community redevelopment law processes. In other words, instead of constant litigation, as has happened in my district, to stop the production of covenanted affordable housing. And one of the big cases was a project that has 100% affordable housing, which AHF sued to stop because of a density concern. And so if we had this process in place, it would make the legal standing for that type of lawsuit null and void. So what we should really focus on is removing all barriers to the production of covenanted affordable housing in the city, which is why I feel very strongly that we should support AB 832. Thank you.
Mr. Cedillo?
Madam President, let me say that I concur with Mr. O'Farrell. I think we need to understand that all this is built upon the scheme of CRA. And the fact of the matter is CRA doesn't exist. And we've gone to court several times, and the people who have lost because they're trying to build this on the foundation of CRA and the tax increments and the entirety of that scheme. But that scheme does not exist. And that's why the courts keep telling us we have no obligations because the scheme doesn't exist. The tax increments don't exist. The obligations don't exist. So while this remains in writing somewhere, and people think, well, let me go and sue the city, the fact of the matter, it doesn't exist. We in our district work at a 20% baseline. We sometimes do more, sometimes do less. We're creative, we work on that. What this does, let me suggest or argue that the legislation enables us to do this. We're encumbered by the ghost of the CRA right now. And I think what we're trying to do is say, look, let's not be encumbered by the ghost of the CRA. Let's go forward and let us 15 leaders of the city of Los Angeles, decide what we want. And if we want 20%, we could say that. If we want 50%, we could say that. Or if we want to have options that allow us to address these concerns with respect to affordability and to the homelessness, that is up to us, the 15 leaders of the city, and not only an antiquated, but also a non-functioning CRA guidelines and recommendations that was designed for a different time period with an entirely different reality of the tax increments and of the authority of that agency. It does not exist, and this conversation to me seems moot. I don't know why we keep going forward. I don't know why the courts entertain it. It seems that they would be able to look initially when anybody brought some cause of action and say, look, you're talking about something that just doesn't exist in fact and in reality, and so we should move forward. I thank Mr. O'Farrell for taking this off last week's agenda and giving us time to give it a little deeper study, and I thank Ms. Phelan and Mr. Weber for their presence today. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Bonin?
Thanks, Madam President. I don't have any former CRA areas in my district, so I'm not as fluent in all of this. Just I'm hearing the discussion back and forth, and I don't know that I'm hearing anybody disagree on the intention. I'm hearing everybody say they want local control. I'm hearing everybody say they want affordable housing. And I'm just wondering, listening to this, if there isn't a way to square this circle by saying we would support the bill to provide more local control, provided it is amended to preserve the requirement for 15% in the former CRA area. I don't know if that addresses both concerns or not. And if it does, I would make that motion.
Mr. Bonin, can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, what I was suggesting, I was trying to find a way to address both concerns here by saying that we would support the bill if amended to maintain a requirement for 15% affordability in the former CRA zone.
I see. Mr. O'Farrell?
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, the court is saying that that's not even a requirement. But, you know, I would just call for the vote, Madam President.
Is that a form of motion, Mr. Bonin?
Yeah.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Koretz. Mr. Blumenfield? I know we have a motion on the floor and the question's also been called, but Mr. Blumenfield?
Yeah, I would actually suggest to Mr. Bonin if he tweaks that amendment a little bit, because if there is asking to support it only if we add in this provision and the provision can't exist could be a problem, why not just say, as long as it doesn't reduce any affordable housing requirements? That way you're covered, we're covered. We all want the same thing. Nobody wants to see any affordable housing requirement reduced in any way. I personally, I know a lot about the CRA stuff. I was the author of the bill to, that both, when the governor wanted to remove the CRAs, that both eliminated the CRA and then created the new CRA. In fact, a lot of people on this, a number of folks here voted for both of those bills and linked them. And then the CRAs, as we know, went to court and basically committed suicide because they went to court and they invalidated the bill that would have recreated CRA with all the affordable housing requirements. And the bill that was left standing, that was validated, was the one that eliminated. The two had to be joined, and we forced the governor to sign both of them, but they lost it all in court. So I don't think that requirement is there currently, but I'm certainly, I think your amendment would be better stated if it was not, as long as they add in this new requirement, which we probably can't do, but just to say, as long as it doesn't reduce any existing requirements, then everybody's happy, because if it's there, we're supporting it only if it doesn't reduce it. And if it's not there, it's not there. At least we're supporting the idea of local control. So that would be my suggestion to Mr. Bonin.
Sure, I'll accept that.
Or my amending motion, or whatever, however you want to do it.
So, Mr. Bonin, you've accepted Mr. Blumenfield's friendly?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. De Leon?
Madam President, I know that you have a pending motion that's on the table. I don't know if you want to dispose of that action right now, then come back to commentary.
No, I'm going through comments now, and then we're going to go for a vote.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. I just have a question for well, actually, a couple things. One is I do want to recognize that the Councilmember O'Farrell has reached out on numerous occasions, as well as the staff. So I do want to recognize that. We haven't had an opportunity to actually connect, but Mr. O'Farrell did reach out on numerous occasions, as well as his staff. So I want to recognize that there. Ms. Phelan, a little departure from the 50% threshold, whether that's per developer or if that's the geographical zone that's covered, by the former rules of the CRA. But coming actually to downtown Los Angeles and to the Wiggins settlement, would AB 832 have an impact on the Wiggins settlement, especially as it relates to our single room onlys and in Skid Row specifically?
Certainly. So I would like to let Principal Planner Craig Weber speak to that as well, but I would say generally that nothing will happen to Wiggins without subsequent legislative action by the City Council. The provisions AB 832 do not touch the Wiggins requirements.
Thank you, Ms. Phelan. Mr. Weber? Do you want to confirm, validate, undermine Ms. Phelan, all the above?
Thank you for that, council members. Craig Weber, planning staff. I would affirm and validate that point of view. I would also acknowledge, as we're in the later stages of updating the downtown community plan, that we have envisioned that the terms of the redevelopment plan that codify the Wiggins settlement, so what's known as a design for development plan, that those would also continue forward as that plan is updated. So what we're talking about is a representation of some important land use controls for residential hotels and similar buildings that are really protecting a vulnerable cross-section of downtown residents. So the vision of the downtown plan is also that those controls would be maintained in the future.
Okay, so if I'm hearing correctly from both you, Mr. Weber, as well as Ms. Phelan representing the City Attorney's Office and planning respectively, the AB 832 would not affect the settlement, the Wiggins settlement, again, in downtown LA, especially as it relates to the most vulnerable population, or unhoused community members, or housed community members who are still extremely low income in SROs. I just want to get a validation.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. All right. And Ms. Phelan, representing the City Attorney's Office, I just want to get a validation as well too.
Yes, that's correct.
Confirmation. Okay. I would just suggest to Council President as well as our colleagues, because there's a lot of questions and there's a sense of uneasiness among our colleagues, we can move forward with the motion that's before us and the motion that's on the table that's been worked out by both Mr. Blumenfeld as well as Mr. Bonin. And if we can find that consensus, it may be good to go. Staff today had I think a positive conversation with Assembly Member Richard Bloom's office up in the state capitol, and they communicated that they're more than amenable to engage with the housing advocates, whether it's legal aid, whether it's Mr. Larry Gross or Susie Shannon, and other housing advocates and activists who are concerned about the 50% threshold of litigation of the last three cases, of what it actually means, to Mr. Blumenfeld's point, right, which is we don't want to undermine any potential affordability policies, given the tragic circumstances that we're facing today with low-income folks and unhoused folks today that are finding it increasingly difficult to find access to any type of physical dwelling to put a roof over their heads. This motion could very well pass 7-8-7, on a split vote, which doesn't preclude any individual council member from making their own individual phone calls to the state capitol to try to stop the measure from moving forward. That's up to each and every one of you. But I think maybe the good news, Madam President, is that Mr. Bloom's office has communicated very clearly that they're willing to bend over backwards and to sit down with the housing advocates on the affordability issue to clarify and, in fact, move any amendments that are necessary, that are real amendments, not just us talking about it amongst ourselves and putting it on a letter, whatever weight that carries when it goes up to state capitol, but real amendments as put across the desk up in the state assembly. So I just add those two thoughts.
Mr. Cedillo?
Well, Madam President, I'm prepared to vote for the original motion. I think the efforts to amend it would require a deeper conversation amongst all of us. I don't know that this city today needs a mere 15%. I think the challenges that confront us are larger than that. And so I think that we should simply go forward with the original motion. It addresses the concerns, and those concerns have been fully addressed and articulated by our council and our planner. And I'm prepared to move that motion forward and vote for it.
Thank you. Mr. Koretz?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to clarify, I'm not in any way trying to say that we shouldn't pass this piece of legislation. And my staff was briefed, and they recommended that I support the motion as it was, but I still had concerns. And I believe Mr. Blumenfield's amendment is exactly what I'm looking for and what we probably all should be looking for, which is a guarantee that if this were to reduce affordable housing requirements, that we're no longer in support. We would want an amendment to continue those affordable housing requirements. And of course, the 15% is not a minimum. Well, it is a minimum. It's a floor. It's not a ceiling. So certainly we're able to do more, but it would prevent us from doing less. So if it doesn't reduce affordable housing, which it's been argued that it doesn't, then this would do nothing to stop our support. If it actually does reduce affordable housing, then it would eliminate our support. So it's kind of perfect. Nobody wants to reduce affordable housing. I don't think any of the 15 of us do. So it guarantees that it doesn't, and otherwise we support it. So I think Mr. Blumenfield's amendment is perfect and right on target. I would like to see us vote for that.
Mr. Krikorian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've just been advised by our council that the 15% requirement no longer exists. So as a policy matter, we can do any number of things with regard to affordability requirements. We can make those decisions. But what I don't want to see is have us assume liabilities for things that we have no liability for right now, and put us in a worse position in defending against bad faith lawsuits in the future over this than we are now. So I believe we should act according to our city attorney's instructions, the advice of our housing committee chair, and the maker of the motion, and simply vote on this and move forward. And instead of trying to spitball language on the fly about how we should support state legislation. It's a matter before us. We should just vote on it.
Thank you, Mr. Krikorian. Mr. O'Farrell?
Thank you, Madam President. I completely concur with Mr. Krikorian, and I would like to ask our city attorney, Ms. Phelan, if you see this amendment that's on the table right now as problematic in any way in reference to supporting this Senate bill.
Thank you, Council President. Council, I would say that certainly the original is very problematic. The original language is very problematic. The city's position in court repeatedly is that the city's not responsible for that 15%. I think Craig Weber could speak to the fact that the CRA was not imposing that 15%, was not enforcing that since 2012 on projects. So, you know, the city assuming the responsibility for that when the CRA wasn't imposing it seems very problematic. And the question is, if that interpretation is right, that we're responsible when the Hollywood redevelopment plan expires for 15%, what does that mean? So I think we're assuming more liability than if we were silent on that, or didn't pass the resolution. It seems more problematic to add that language in.
Thank you, City Attorney Phelan. So, Madam President, what I'm going to recommend is a no vote on the amendment and a yes vote on the original resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Blumenfield?
Yeah, I want to clarify something with the city attorney. I completely understand what you were saying with regard to the way that the amendment was framed originally, because it was speaking to the city taking on this 15%. But in terms of the amended version, help me understand, if all it says is we support this state legislation as long as it doesn't reduce any affordable housing requirements, how does that give us any liabilities at all? Especially since I agree with you, there are no affordable housing requirements there, period. So it won't reduce any affordable housing requirements. So saying that we're going to support it as long as it doesn't is tantamount to just supporting it. But it gives some members more comfort who have questions about that. So help me understand, because if that's the case, then I will vote no against the amendment, the fixing amendment that I put forward. But I don't see how that language is just designed to give people a little bit of comfort that we're not reducing something that none of us want to reduce. But help me understand if the amended version, I understand the original version and agree with you, but how does the amended version give us any liability or any trouble at all? Because if it does, I'll vote no on it, but tell me.
Thank you, Council. Kathy Phelan, City Attorney's Office. I think that the issue is that it suggests that the city is ambiguous as to what the health and safety code requires of the city and the redevelopment plan, and the city's position is that we're not responsible for that. So if we're asking the state to clarify that, make it express so that we can stop having all this litigation and save the resources of the city on the litigation.
But we're not asking them to clarify it or make it express. We're just saying we'll only support it. We support it as long as it doesn't reduce any affordable housing requirements. Are you still?
The language in 3341, I'm sorry, the language in AB 832 that has raised concerns is a provision in the AB 832 that would say the 33413 of the Health and Safety Code, which required the 15%, is null and void in regards to redevelopment plans. That any provision in our redevelopment plan that implements that is null and void. So that is asking the state to make it explicit that we're not responsible, which is the city's position. But to have the state make it explicit, we'd stop getting sued. We've had 4 lawsuits on this. So we're trying to reduce the exposure to the city by asking the state to make it explicit. And by adding the language into the resolution, I certainly agree that the language you're suggesting and you've made a motion for is better. And if we pass that, that's better. But it's certainly not as clean as a straight resolution without that.
Okay, members, seeing no other questions, let's vote on the motion that's on the floor. There's been a request by Mr. O'Farrell to vote no on this motion. So members, let's prepare to vote on this.
Thank you, Madam
Please call the
President.
roll.
And this is for the amendment on item 39. This is the motion made by Bonin Koretz and amended further by Councilmember Blumenfield. Councilmember Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, no.
Bonin.
Bonin, aye.
Buscaino.
No.
Cedillo.
No.
De Leon.
Aye.
Harris Dawson.
No.
Koretz.
No.
Krikorian.
No.
Lee.
No.
Martinez.
No.
O'Farrell.
No.
Price.
No.
Rahman.
Yes.
No.
Ridley Thomas.
No.
Rodriguez.
No.
3 ayes, 12 noes. The amendment fails.
Okay, let's vote now on the original motion on item
Madam
39.
President, could I just ask that
Hold
my
on for
vote
just a
be
second,
corrected
Mr.
to a yes? That was an error.
Excuse me?
Could I just ask that my vote be corrected to a yes? I voted no in error
On the motion.
on the motion that was just voted on.
Okay.
Right, and for the record, that changes the vote from 4 ayes to 11 noes. The amendment still fails.
All right, thank you. Let's vote on
Madam
the
President, may I move that
can we
Mr.
please
Koretz
raise
be
our
expelled
hands?
from the meeting? Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Ridley Thomas, I needed a moment there. Okay, let's go ahead and vote on the original motion, item 39. Please call the roll.
Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Bonin.
Bonin, aye.
Buscaino.
Aye.
Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
De Leon.
Aye.
Harris Dawson.
No.
Koretz. Lee,
Aye.
Martinez,
Aye.
O'Farrell,
Aye.
Price,
Aye.
Rahman,
Yes.
Ridley Thomas,
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
14 ayes, 1 no. The original resolution passes.
Okay, well, that was a healthy discussion. Thank you, Mr. Koretz. I'm at a loss for words. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 47. Members, item 47 in today's agenda, we're going to continue our series of discussions on homelessness crisis facing our city. Since the beginning of the year, we've had a number of discussions on this issue. We've talked about housing and the importance of providing shelter for the unhoused community and what type of interventions the city is currently building. But building housing means nothing if we can't reach the people who actually need it. That's why last month we discussed services and what types of outreach was being done by the city, the county, and LAHSA and other service providers that the city contracts with. We discussed how critical the need is for the outreach to take place, that the face-to-face contact, identifying the needs and the services needed to help is virtual to this process. Last week, following our discussion, the council approved a motion on the framework for 15 new outreach teams that will be launched as part of our homelessness roadmap. So today we'll continue on our series with a discussion on street engagement and hygiene services that our sanitation department provides to the unhoused community. And during this global health pandemic, the sanitation department has adapted their hygiene services and standards to ensure that they're following all the CDC guidelines. Although we've had a number of budget constraints over the past year, it really has limited the department's work, and sanitation has continued to offer these services nonetheless. So as we start thinking about post-COVID and how we're recovering and getting out of the pandemic, we also need to discuss how the city will continue to offer cleaning and hygiene services to the unhoused community and what that actually is going to look like. So I think it's our responsibility as a city to provide these services. No one, whether it's the housed or the unhoused, should be without these services of trash pickup, cleaning, and street hygiene services in our community. So, Council, we have an opportunity today to hear from the Sanitation Department and provide input on how the department should continue offering these hygiene services moving forward, especially post-COVID. So with us today, Sanitation will give a brief overview on the following: what services they're providing to the unhoused community, their response to the pandemic in relation to the unhoused community, how they're working with the unhoused community and service providers, and what we're doing to ensure that these services are consistent, regular, and hygienic. So with us this morning, we have Jose Pepe Garcia, our Assistant General Manager. We've got Gabriel Miranda, the Division Manager, Domingo Orozco, our Assistant Division Manager, and Howard Wong, who is the Chief Environmental Compliance Officer. So they will provide a brief overview on their services, and then we're going to go ahead and take questions from members of the council. So if I can invite these gentlemen to join our meeting. Okay, gentlemen, can you hear me? I see Mr.
Yes,
Miranda,
Madam
Mr. Orozco. There's Pepe.
Good morning.
We've got, hold on for
Madam-
just a second. We
Madam
need to
President.
fix the names, because I see 2 Domingo Orozcos on the screen. As far
Yes,
as I
Madam
can
President,
remember,
this is
I know I
Howard
haven't
Wong.
seen people in person in a long time, but I think we only have 1 Domingo Orozco at the sanitation department. So there you go, Howard. You were,
Thank you.
for just a second, you were Domingo. So who's going to start us off, gentlemen?
Madam President, I will go ahead and introduce the team. Thank you for the opportunity for us to talk about the livability services and the care program in particular, and all the services that we do provide currently,
despite the pandemic and the limitations and staffing and everything else, but we've still been out there performing and providing much needed services to the unhoused community. So briefly, I'm going to introduce Gabriel Miranda, the division manager over the care livability services, and in particular the care program. And then he will introduce Domingo for specifics on or details on the particular items that we provide when we go out there and do health and safety cleanups and perform those duties on the street. So with that, Mr. Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Good morning, Madam President, members. I'm Gabe Miranda, Division Manager of Livability Services Division. I am joined here today by my Assistant Division Manager, Domingo Orozco, and our Chief Environmental Compliance Officer, Howard Wong. So we will be providing a brief overview on the services that we provide within the environmental quality programs under Livability Services Division. This includes our care, cleaning, and rapid engagement programs, our mobile hygiene unit programs, which provide much necessary bathroom and shower services to the unhoused, our public receptacle collection, which has expanded to provide much needed trash service as well as some of our illegal dumping collection. All of these programs are designed in such a way to overlap and provide basically all-inclusive services throughout the city. These components are designed and focused to address and remove health hazards, as well as solid waste from the public right-of-way. And with that, I will turn it over to Domingo, who is going to explain some of the specific enhancements that we've incorporated into our deployment model since the COVID pandemic, which is over a year now that we've been working on these new strategies and enhancements while we're performing the work that we do. And with that, Domingo, if you can.
Thank you, Gabe. Good morning, Madam President, members, Domingo Orozco, Ali San. Very quickly, with the onset of the pandemic in March 2020, Ali San is the city's lead environmental utility, and as part of our core mission of protecting public health and the environment, we quickly mobilized and responded with providing additional support services. LA San supported the efforts to address the COVID-19 pandemic by deploying our fleet of mobile hygiene units and additional sanitary, shower, and restroom staff to shelter facilities citywide. Additionally, sanitation staff provided health hazard property screening for those entering the shelter so that they had clean property. Also, these support services were provided through July of 2020, so over the summer, and that was in coordination with the Unified Homeless Response Center, Rec and Parks, and other service agencies across the region. So LA San's enhanced services, which was built off of this, really began as a pilot, built from those lessons learned during this effort, and that started in the late summer of 2020. The pilot quickly expanded, and that integrated into our primary component of our bridge home servicing. That started at the end of July. So what is enhanced services that we provide? It's the pairing of a mobile hygiene unit with our cleanup teams during the day of service at the bridge home sites. This provides for social distancing. This allows critical sanitary shower and restroom facilities to service the people who are experiencing homelessness who have nowhere to take a shower or to use a restroom. So we try to deploy these fleets as effectively as we can. Incorporated into this deployment as part of the enhanced services is a tent exchange and distribution program that was built off of our mobile hygiene unit fleet. The tent exchange and distribution, this allows for individuals to exchange tents and allows them to, which are two-person small pop-up tents, to continue to while they're still residing on the public right-of-way so that they're not left without a structure or somewhere to be. The additional components of what we built into the enhanced services include the distribution of sanitary personal protective equipment. That includes masks, gloves, hand sanitizers. These kits are distributed during these events as well. The pilot also incorporated, and in conjunction with council districts and the Unified Homeless Response Center, coordinating LAFD mobile COVID testing, sometimes the day of, or sometimes prior to that, whenever resources from fire was available to assist in that. That also was a component of ensuring social distancing and just making sure the population still had more services that were deployed to them. Additionally, this pilot continues as our primary deployment model within our ABH servicing. To date, we've provided over 24,000 showers We've distributed approximately several hundred tents in part of an exchange distribution program. And we've also distributed over 2,000 sanitary PPE kits across the city as part of this deployment. Also, as part of our further recent deployment due to ongoing financial considerations, we've also been able to stabilize our illegal dumping collection services. This removes trash, litter, debris from the right-of-way in a faster, more efficient manner. This allows that material not to grow or to fester and to get that immediately away from anyone who may make use of the right-of-way, as that's a health and safety component that we're trying to provide. Additionally, we've been able to use our CleanStat street indexing system as a model of proactive engagement. This allows us to address non-reported service requests and to provide those immediate services without a service request being entered into the MyLA 311 system. We look at it as a way of finding out what needs to be done, addressing any trash, litter, and debris, collecting that material without it necessarily being reported so that we're able to provide that service to the city. With that, thank you, Madam President and members, for your time this morning. If you have any questions, we're available to respond and answer. Thank you.
Madam President, if I may.
Yes.
The one component that that early in 2020 we started to get a trickle in, and throughout the pandemic we have been we received a full complement of steam cleaners with recovery system of our own as we power wash these particular sites. So one of the major components of the cleanup that we do is voluntarily move folks so that we can actually get down to the layers of buildup over time and be able to recover that so it doesn't enter into our storm drain system. So we are fully equipped. I mean, what I mean by that is we received our full allotment of, I believe, 15 power units. So that part of the complement to all this that Mr. Orozco described is that layer, that final cleaning absolute that we were here and it's clean and it's safe. There's no buildup and there's no that tackiness that comes with it and the stains that are associated with some of these encampments. So I just wanted to kind of add that as an additional layer in our responsibility to provide sanitation services for the unhoused individuals.
Okay, any other members of your team? Mr. I was going to call you Mr. Pepe, but Pepe, do you have any other members of your team that want to add anything else before I take questions from the council members?
No, we wanted to keep it brief and then, field any questions, but we wanted to give you where we're at right now. And although, it's kind of, you mentioned staffing levels and stuff, we received all these units and then we had to cut back. So they, we have them, we're ready to go. And there would be part of the service as we walk away. We have a street sweeper that we do the streets with, but now we're able to get into the sidewalks and that component of it. But no, we're ready to field any questions if there are any questions. But that to me adds to the complete sanitary cycle of any comprehensive cleaning by a Care Plus operation.
All right, we got a number of members now on the queue. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Mr. Price?
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you to Domingo and to Jose and the team. Your efforts are greatly appreciated. Our goal always across the board are to make sure that we are housing our unhoused neighbors, and that's always our top objective is get them a bed. But what process are we using when we transport their belongings? Things that they want to keep, and how do we determine things that are going to be disposed of? What's that process look like during this period?
Chief Wong would respond to that.
Good afternoon, sir. Mr. Price, to respond to your question, as far as what process, we have existing protocols and standard operating procedures to deal with personal property. If personal property is not deemed a health hazard, we're going to store them appropriately for at least 90 days. where individuals can and retrieve that through our partnering servicing agencies, as far as providing supportive services for individuals wishing to be placed into a shelter, in conjunction with working with our community service groups, representatives, and each council district's representatives through our CARE or CARE Plus teams. We can provide services on the day of service, providing, again, some enhanced services such as trash bags, sharps containers, things like that, to assist in those individuals wishing to take their property with them into the shelter.
So how many bags or how many containers are they permitted to, put their belongings in that will be stored? And then what happens to the items that aren't stored?
For voluntary, unfortunately, sanitation does not have any extra voluntary storage capacity facilities for personal property. We will work with the shelters if they're specifically allowed to take personal property into the shelters through the intake, and we will work with the service providers to identify that.
So let's say the person has a bag or 2 bags. They can take one with them and the other goes into storage, or you're saying let them go with them? I'm still not clear.
Some will go with them. That depends on the amount of property that the shelter intake is allowed. Our storage facilities, if we do have capacity, we can store it, but that's going to be dependent upon what storage is available involuntary as far as sanitation storage is concerned.
And then what happens to those items that are left behind? Because invariably things are left behind. And
if things are left behind, we typically will work with the service providers and the individuals who are out on the public right-of-way wishing to dispose of that voluntarily. Our staff will take note of that, take some specific statements, and a report will be generated as far as what items are going to be disposed and what items they're going to be taken with them.
Okay. But those items that are left behind, that are just sort of left behind for someone else to take advantage of, to use, or so I'm just trying to figure out what our policy is. Someone voluntarily agrees to leave. They've got a bag of stuff. Is there some protocol of what happens next, or we just sort of let it go and see what happens, or how do
Right, council member, and this is a great question because this is something that we had discussed through a response back to a motion by Councilmember Rodriguez regarding some of the activities we took care of at Paxton and Bradley. What happens during a project room key transition? So we would like to be there on a regular day of service that each council office has as part of the cleanup services, so that we're able to do exactly what you're asking. How do we quickly process that material in a humane, safe environment so that we're able to voluntarily take and discard any trash that they voluntarily discard for us?
Building that connection between the service provider, notifying us of somebody that's being housed, and us determining everything that Chief Wong described. And when that person leaves to be housed, his material is either taken with him, stored, or removed for contamination. But to your point, will it be commandeered or inherited by someone else? That's what we're working towards, Mr. O'Brien.
I think we just got to be mindful of that, because that is a challenge in some areas. An area that might where a person leaves. Frequently the space that the person left is still there with belongings, or maybe a tent or some shelter, and then someone else just moves in. And so, a lot of times it defeats the purpose. Let me shift again quickly to the RV situation. Again, in my district and in many districts, RV encampments have become an additional challenge. Talk a little bit about the cleanup that we can do, that needs to be done, and other challenges that may be associated with the RV encampment situations.
This is Howard Wong again. Regarding the RV encampment situation within your district, I've personally been out there. We've addressed specific personal property. If it's located on the public right-of-way that affects health and safety, examples of health and safety will be ADA, ingress, egress, items such as that. We can address those immediately. As far as the RV itself, if the RV is leaking, sanitation can also respond to address any waste and or health hazards associated with the leaking RVs.
But it doesn't, does it involve the removal of the RV or just to try to arrest the problem of the leak?
Number one, we're gonna address the problem of the leak, and if there's an individual tied to that, compliance may be achieved either through citations and or further voluntary compliance with the individual.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Buscaino?
Thank you, Madam President and members. Let me first recognize this team before us with Pepe, Howard, Domingo, and Gabriel under the direction of Enrique Zaldivar. We've had a great working relationship over the course of these last several months, being the only council member who actually are doing comprehensive, compassionate cleanups outside the Bridge home zone. So I just want to recognize your work that you do. You're an entire team. Appreciate the ongoing collaboration. So a couple questions. Can you quickly and just remind our viewing audience the difference between a comprehensive Care Plus cleanup versus the pared down spot cleaning of a care cleanup?
Right. Thank you for that question, Councilmember Buscaino. So the difference between a Care and a Care Plus operation is the Care Plus operation is the posted notice cleanup. This involves us providing a posted notice within 24 hours prior to that cleanup, and the cleanup taking place within 72 hours. And this also involves, as Pepe mentioned, more of a deep sanitizing. So while folks are temporarily relocating, for instance, as Domingo mentioned, with our mobile hygiene unit, maybe taking need of those services, we are doing a thorough cleaning in a safe manner in which we have heavy equipment in there and being able to pressure wash the public right of way. Whereas spot cleaning is much more compliance-based. We do remove health hazards, regardless if it's a Care or Care Plus operation. But there's no level of compliance as it relates to tents being up and things and individuals having to temporarily relocate while a deeper comprehensive cleaning is taking place.
Thank you for that, Gabriel. Also, can you explain for our viewing audience, particularly those who have continued to get in the way of helping those in my district involved in the comprehensive cleanups, who continue to protest, so-called protest these cleanups by doing the right thing. Can you explain to them how sanitation physically cleans the surface of sidewalks and streets? Also, how compassionate this effort is by offering, you just mentioned showers. At a time we offered COVID-19 testing, now offering immunizations and shots. I want everyone to understand the difference on how sanitation physically cleans the surface of sidewalks and streets compared to the care cleanup, spot cleaning, as you mentioned. But is pressure washing, you mentioned Pepe steam cleaning. Is it possible to perform pressure washing, steam cleaning through a quote unquote spot cleaning?
No, that makes it more difficult. We do use a bleach agent, so we need to make sure that we're abiding by all the compliance regulations of ensuring that no one's in that general area while we're performing that cleaning. So that's why the pressure washing is done on the comprehensive side rather than the spot cleaning side.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we are sanitizing with the Care Plus, we are sanitizing sidewalks, correct?
That's correct.
Wonderful. Would it be accurate to say that comprehensive cleaning results in cleaner, more sanitary living conditions for the unhoused and the surrounding communities and businesses?
So, Councilman, prior to us, I mean, it's always been a need to have a steam cleaning component to it, only because it just builds up. And what exists in that buildup, who knows? I mean, not too long ago, it was typhus in Skid Row. Prior to that, who knows what? So, and then speaking on health and safety and the environment, both are very important. If you're laying on all this crud, it's potential to, get on you or be attached to it.
Right.
If by removing that, at least you clean the surface, and it's both healthier, not only for the individual that happens to reside in that area, but should it rain or somebody, have water, it can leach into the
storm drain.
And that's another issue that we have been wanting to deal with. So that's why we've received a full complement of not only the ability to steam clean, but to recover the material that's also being washed away.
So this helps us comply with our Clean Water Act, correct?
Correct.
The Garcia injunction, maybe Pepe or Mr. Wong, you could address this. How does a Garcia injunction affect how sanitation operates today? In the whole Care Plus cleanup space.
In the whole Care Plus cleanup space is, I wouldn't call it the Garcia injection is limiting our cleanup capacity. It's the temporary suspension of the tents being up is our main holdback on that.
Let me help you out. Let me help you out on this.
Okay.
Members, so what Mr. Wong is saying that they can no longer confiscate large, bulky items without notice. It has to be noticed, which as we remember back in March, we suspended that back in March. And we needed, if you, and I encourage you members to, I'd be more than happy to support your efforts if you want to bring back or overdo that suspension by a council vote. I'll be more than happy to second that for you, because we have seen that as we resumed the Care Plus cleanups outside the Bridge Home Zone, we have done a tremendous amount of work for those most vulnerable in these dangerous encampments, but also those individuals who are the surrounding neighborhoods and some of the businesses that have been impacted by these dangerous encampments. And lastly, I will just end by just giving you all a dose of reality. What we're seeing today is housekeeping, plain and simple. What we're seeing in my district is the fact that we have deployed aggressive street engagement teams prior to the posted cleanup. Care Plus comes in effectively, removes tons of trash, large items, bulky items, along with feces and bottles of urine. And after this process, after this takes place, members, we see the same individuals, very unfortunate, we see the same individuals come right back because unfortunately they refuse services and shelter. So looking forward to continuing this dialogue, to set some rules in place, have some code of conducts that we advance toward, looking forward to that conversation, to do what's right, mainly for the most vulnerable and also for the residents and businesses in the impacted neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buscaino. Mr. Koretz?
Thank you, Madam President. And I tuned away for a few seconds, so I may have missed this if it was already asked, but I wonder if you could walk us through how the recent funding cuts have impacted care operations. And this is not overall care, it's with Care and Care Plus, just referring to the care specific program where we did not require people to move, but just to take items that they would like to give us and clean around the edges of encampments.
All right, thank you, council members. So with some of the budgetary constraints, we have redesigned the deployment model temporarily. And that consisted of really the care part of the program. So keeping Care and Care Plus services around a bridge home intact, keeping Care Plus citywide spot cleaning operations as well intact, but Care citywide per council district is where the redesign took place due to some of our budget constraints and staffing challenges. We do have over 40 vacancies in the division. So to ensure that we're prioritizing the important work that we do, we had to basically redeploy the resources, again, temporarily until such time that we can hire and fill the vacancies that we have. We did keep intact, obviously, the illegal dumping that Domingo mentioned. That's a very important service that we provide. And we've actually been able to respond much quicker to service requests that are coming in, being more of an independent program and model now, as well as our receptacle collection, both on the automated litter bins, and as well as the green wire baskets that were deployed to areas where folks are experiencing homelessness. So those parts of the programs are still in place, are still operational, but we did have to reduce our capacity as it relates to care service, just due to some of the budget constraints and staffing challenges.
Yeah, well, I would just point out that certainly many of my constituents have noticed the change as a significant negative, and that we've just acted to make things worse rather than better. It's a relatively modest dollar amount in the scheme of things to keep this program going. And I certainly would encourage us to use overtime and to begin hiring to fill in some of these slots so that we can actually do this again. I think it's a big missing piece, and a less disruptive and aggressive means of keeping encampment areas as sanitized as possible. So I don't know whether my colleagues agree, but I certainly would put that out there. Also, I know there's been some questions about whether compliance and willingness to participate in these Care Pluses, cleanups, and to consider accessing services may partly be a result of lack of consistency in terms of who is actually doing it. So are we making an effort in addition to our folks that do outreach, but with sanitation, are we making an effort to have the same people go to the same encampments so they become more familiar to the residents of those encampments and perhaps more willing to be cooperative?
Yes, that's accurate and that's correct. We do have regional deployment. That was part of our deployment model when we launched the CARE program, was having 5 regional deployment centers throughout the city, which naturally does reduce drive time to and from locations. But most importantly, as you mentioned, having folks and our staff working in areas that they're familiar with, getting to know the unhoused community, and that's the part of the engagement that we built into the program. So that does exist. We do have challenges, as I mentioned, not just with vacancies, but COVID as well. So we navigate through those and ensure that we shift resources to make sure that we are, being able to sustain the operations. But for the most part, we always try to keep our staffing intact with the region that they work in.
And certainly we all recognize the difficult circumstances that the department finds itself in with cuts and COVID and everything else you're facing in terms of staffing. One other question on lack of consistency or not lack of consistency, depending on what we hear from you. Also, there's a question of whether everyone responds in the same way to the same circumstances because they're receiving the same training. Can you walk us through the kind of training that staff is getting to deal with these issues of homelessness and homeless encampments? And should there be more continuing education and training, or do you think what we're doing is adequate?
Yeah, I mean, training is a priority for us in the division, for our staff, as it relates to both safety as well as the work that they do as far as the engagement side. Our staff has went through de-escalation training, as well as a lot of the training that's required to ensure CalOSHA compliance with the work that we do on the right-of-way, whether it be traffic control and things of that nature. But we are always looking to continue to provide additional training for our staff because it is a high priority and very much needed.
Thank you.
Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, Madam President, and to Gabrielle and Pepe and Howard and the entire Sanitation Bureau. You all do amazing work. And as the months have progressed before COVID, since COVID, your workers out in the field have become de facto social workers with some of these individuals experiencing homelessness, where you're providing the street engagement, hygiene, and service teams. I know that in In Hollywood, we have two such processes every Monday and every Wednesday. My staff goes out every single time as well and has seen in action the great work that you all do. And I'm hopeful that we can enhance these teams and fill some of the positions so that we can have more consistency of some of the same individuals building that trust with these folks who are receiving these services on a regular basis around the Bridge home sites. And that kind of brings me to the question that I would like to ask, and it has to do with LAHSA. My team reports that LAHSA is there most of the time, but sometimes not at all. And I don't think that's the LAHSA workers' fault or responsibility. There's a problem in leadership at LAHSA, a very, very serious problem. They're receiving millions of dollars from the city, county, and the state. And part of the agreement was always to have comprehensive outreach, a saturation of LAHSA workers to help accommodate these days of service. And my team reports that they'll stop by and not stay long at all. I have eyewitness accounts of constituents telling me that a LAHSA team will pull up to an encampment where the sidewalk is completely blocked, and they'll say, "How are you all doing?" They'll hand them water, say nothing more, and they continue on. That's not outreach. And we need to expect more from LAHSA. Nonetheless, sanitation is completing these days of service as best you can with the tools that you have. And I'm hopeful that we can really bring additional resources so we can be more effective. I love and have seen in experienced this myself at the sites that I've visited frequently. The tent exchanges, the showers and restrooms, the COVID testing through LAFD, the distribution of sanitary PPE, removal of trash debris, et cetera. And I just think it's a phenomenal service that is going to lead to greater solutions in the future. But I'm hopeful, and this is more of a comment than a question, that we can really combine all forces, focusing on the services to help save lives where they are on the sidewalks and on our streets and everywhere else where people are experiencing homelessness, with the unified aim at getting people under a roof and on a path to wellness. So what I will ask one question, Madam President, and that is to Gabrielle or anyone on this, Howard perhaps, what has been your experience in working with LAHSA and the other SPA outreach teams as it relates to the street engagement, hygiene, and services?
Thank you, Council Member. It's a great question. Obviously, it's a timely question. I know all of the things that are happening. We work with every council office, all of your district staff, your district directors, with our community services group. We work with the Unified Homeless Response Center, and we're willing to work with every service provider to provide as much service as possible to anyone that may need it. We also have outreach information with our staff so that they're able to communicate that at time of flight whenever there's need. So we'll work with anyone on any of the service, and really it gets back to, for us, just very simply making sure we provide the services we can when we're available to do so.
Domingo, thank you so much. But I'll just be a little more direct. We need a more complete team, and I think the entity that makes our teams incomplete is LAHSA. But Domingo, thank you to your entire Bureau of Sanitation for the incredible work you do out in the field. We appreciate it.
Mr. Krikorian?
Thank you very much, Madam President, and thank you to the sanitation team. I just want to echo Mr. O'Farrell's opening comment and express our gratitude, I think, first of all, to the men and women of sanitation who are routinely slandered in this city and who are accused of all manner of things from all parts of this dialogue. from no matter what people's position is on homelessness and the challenges that it creates for the unhoused and the housed in this city, sanitation still is on the receiving end of an awful lot of public abuse. And a lot of it is terribly unfair because you're put in a nearly impossible position due to many factors, not least of which are the constraints of federal court decisions, the interference by protesters when you're trying to do your work, and any number of other factors that restrict your ability to do the basic work of keeping our city clean and preserving the public health. And so I want to express to each of you my appreciation and to the men and women who work on your teams. And I want to raise as one example the RV program that we created with sanitation in my district, which has been an extension of the Care Plus program that, while it was going, was phenomenally successful and allowed people who were living in their RVs to have regular servicing of those RVs, to have sewage pumping from their tanks so that they wouldn't have to dump that sewage in different places, having regular trash pickup that the RV residents would set out their trash and have it regularly picked up. And it was tremendously successful, not only in cleaning up the RV encampment areas and making it more hygienic and preventing those threats to the public health, but also in connecting RV dwellers to services. And it was not, outreach workers who were making that connection. It was sanitation workers who were building the trust with the people who lived there by offering these sort of basic services that made life better for the people who were living in those RVs. And by making life better for them, establishing a relationship of trust that then allowed allowed more delivery of services. We had one Marine Corps veteran, for example, and his girlfriend who were living in an RV, who had turned down repeated offers of services and outreach from LASA outreach workers and others who would come. But it was because of that connection made through sanitation and through the persistence of a HOPE officer who was also a fellow Marine, that Marine was housed. And so you never know what those connections are going to be that causes somebody to be willing to accept service. But I think making their life better in the way that sanitation has in many ways is one very important step in that process. We removed over 10 tons of refuse from around those RVs, 10 tons. And so I wish that we had the budgetary resources to be able to maintain that and even expand it in a more robust way. But I want to thank each of you for that extraordinary work that you've done. And then I also want to talk a little bit about some of the other things that we kind of skipped over too quickly, I think, in this presentation. I'd like somebody to talk about how many porta potties have been deployed and maintained around the city at chronic homeless encampment sites, particularly around underpasses and elsewhere. Talk about the number of hand washing stations. Talk about the trash pickup that's currently going on, the trash bins that are currently deployed and being picked up regularly in order to service chronic homeless encampments. I'd like somebody to talk about the magnitude of that effort and how successful or unsuccessful that has been.
Great, thank you, Councilmember Krikorian. We felt that pilot, the RV pilot, was a very successful pilot as well, and we are looking forward to resuming that in the very near future. As it relates to the receptacles, as I mentioned, we did deploy an additional 500 green wire baskets to areas where folks are experiencing homelessness. This was a model that we built in the Skid Row area that we've had there for years now as a means of providing regular trash service, right? So rather than it ending up on the public right-of-way, having a place where folks can dispose of their trash and debris. That has also been very successful. In addition to our receptacle program as a whole, we do service over 6,000 public receptacles citywide that are serviced and maintained by LA Sanitation. In addition to that, we manage a receptacle database of all public receptacles, regardless of the service provider. So really what we did with the green wire baskets was building off a foundation that was already in existence, but knowing that we still need to continue to deploy additional receptacles. It's a really important part of ensuring that trash goes, in fact, where it belongs. As it relates to the hand wash stations and the portable toilets, that was led by the Unified Homelessness Response Center. However, we did have a part in that in indexing, using our CleanStat crews that index the city to ensure that the porta potties and hand wash stations had soap, water, and any unit that was identified as not having as such, we would make a report to the service provider and the contractor. But we didn't actually deploy the units. However, we did maintain them as it relates to ensuring that they were being serviced. And then we would sanitize them once a week with our environmental compliance inspectors to ensure that those units were being thoroughly sanitized.
Okay, thank you. And I'd like to talk a little bit more about ADA access as well, and particularly how that connects with your illegal dumping enforcement. So if a contractor dumps a load of lumber across the sidewalk, that contractor has committed a crime, right? And you would be able to immediately remove that lumber because of the access that it deprives the public of on the sidewalk, right? That's a criminal act.
That's correct, Councilman Krikorian.
So if that same contractor illegally dumps that lumber adjacent to an encampment, how do your employees draw the distinction between whether that lumber is illegally dumped or is a part of the encampment?
That's going to be an assessment that our environmental compliance inspectors will make at that location. We look at the totality of the location itself, the encampment. We speak to any individuals who may witness it. If the contractor's still there, if there's nobody there, and if the item seems to be part of the encampment, we're going to treat it as such, part of the encampment, or separately if it's just a construction activity not associated with the encampment itself. So that's going to be dependent upon specifically at that location, what our findings are.
So the act of illegal dumping would have created a crime, and that material would have been removed. But if you didn't see that happen and it's dumped next to a homeless encampment and somebody uses some of that wood, for example, to begin to build a structure, right now, you're not going to act on that, right?
We can act on it if it's affecting public health and safety or ADA. That material is affecting public health and safety and ADA.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the ADA access, because there are many locations in my district, and I'm sure throughout the city, particularly in underpasses, where the encampments have made the underpass entirely unpassable, entirely. And so moms with kids in strollers, disabled constituents, kids are compelled to walk into the traffic lanes in order to get from one side of that overpass to another, sometimes in very busy, very fast streets. So when you encounter that situation, what steps can you take now? What steps can you take under normal circumstances, and what steps have you been taking during the COVID pandemic that would help to ensure the safety of people who need to use that public right of way?
Yes, as far as ADA and ingress egress, our teams are able to address that now, even during a pandemic, without a notice posting. If our teams are documenting full blockage of a sidewalk, especially under an underpass, and people cannot travel safely, if there's free passes there with at least 36 inches, our teams will address that when they are there at that moment. Unfortunately, there are times when the teams leave and individuals come back and ADA is not in compliance. Again, that's what hampers our ability as far as, being returning to that location consistently to provide that ADA compliance access for that sidewalk.
So when my constituents see zero change in that encampment over the course of months, that's because you come there on your regular visit. Maybe people comply with your instructions, maybe they don't about access. But the moment that your team is gone, your ability to enforce the Americans with Disabilities Act is gone.
That's accurate. That is accurate. And we do take consideration as far as storage of the material, blocking ADA. If we can store the material, we will store that as well to get ADA compliance. We've been working with, and this is not just in CD2, this is throughout the city with our care teams responding to ADA as well as ingress egress compliance.
Okay, so there's been a lot of discussion about the CDC guidelines regarding encampments and leaving people in place as being the safest way to address COVID. But that has resulted in some respects in less frequent, less rigorous removal of waste and cleanup and removal of trash and so on during your operations, which has in turn resulted in vermin, which are a threat to public safety, and accumulation of hazardous wastes in ways that we wouldn't have seen before, and an accumulation of debris which increases the risk of people dying from fires, which have happened under virtually every overpass in my district now. There have been fires that have been a danger primarily to the people living in those encampments. So at what point how do you deal with the other threats to safety other than COVID that are, in my view, outweighing the COVID risks because of our current protocols?
Our current protocols to address safety is going to be health hazards, whether they're chemical, biological, trash, line of sight trash, debris that we can actually physically remove. Sanitation will have teams going out to remove that without posting notices, et cetera. As far as an individual claiming to have COVID, we work closely with our Unified Homeless Response Center, our outreach service providers, and or public health, LA County Public Health, where needed to identify that individual is COVID positive. We're going to follow those recommended guidelines for them to shelter in place, ensuring that ADA and ingress egress is still accessible for all.
Mr. Krikorian, I'm going to have to move on to other two members.
Okay, thank you, Madam President.
All right, thank you. Ms. Rahman?
Thank you, Council President. Thank you to everybody here from LA SAN for your time and for your thoughtful answers. I had a question about the regular servicing programs that you talked about, adding garbage cans and adding those facilities to locations across the city. How are you currently making decisions about where you're providing those services and prioritizing encampments where that work is happening? is there a process that you're using or a kind of a prioritization list of where these services are happening regularly?
Right. So thank you, council member. It's multi-pronged. So definitely direct coordination with each of the council districts and their offices, district directors, as well as using the CleanStat data that we have. So the CleanStat data has been a big platform of how we've deployed over the 6,000 bins that I mentioned. So where folks are experiencing homelessness, where we find a lot of trash and litter and debris and solid waste tonnage that's being removed, those were the locations that were prioritized. As I mentioned, we did deploy 500 at the onset, but we are looking to obviously procure more bins and deploy more receptacles because we know there's still a need throughout the city for those.
And you're planning on adding receptacles and to that process now after beyond the 500 that you've already?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, great. And do you know what is the range of that expansion going to be?
Right. So it's just based on our inventory right now. So we're working on procuring more bins, but definitely wanting to double it. So I would like to deploy an additional 500 bins.
Okay.
And our CSG group is our liaison with your district. So that would be the direct line of coordination as it relates to priorities and placements and things of that nature.
Okay, thank you. And I was also wondering going back to some of the questions around storage that were asked earlier by Council Members Price and Councilmember Koretz. In terms of storage of items, can you talk about how many of the storage facilities you have in the city and where the items are going after a cleanup and how easy they are for people to access?
Right. And I'll turn it over to our Chief Environmental Officer if he can walk through that process on storage, chain of custody. Chief?
Yes, in the field, when we identify, our environmental compliance inspectors identify personal property that's deemed clean and non-health hazard, items will be documented appropriately in the field. They'll be either bagged, tagged, and transported to one of our involuntary storage facilities throughout the city. And we currently have 7 of these locations throughout the city that include Conex boxes. Once the property is dropped off, we make notification to our service provider who handles the storage after we drop that off under chain of custody, and provide notification to them, as well as ensuring that a post-retrieval notice is posted at that location where that service took place, where the property was stored. That's a summary of how we act.
And is there a plan to expand the number of storage facilities in the city as well?
There is discussion now, and I believe Domingo can speak on that.
Yeah, thank you, council member. Thank you, chief. We're looking at any which way we can because it's a critical component. Also, we work with Chrysalis as part of the outreach and engagement for any property retrieval, anything that is stored either voluntarily or at a site.
Okay. And so what do you need council offices to partner with you on finding locations? Is that what, in terms of the expansion of the bin sites?
We'll work with anyone to assist.
And then I just had one question in terms of the relationship with outreach workers and LAHSA, in terms of the cleanups. I know that we heard in our Homelessness and Poverty Committee a report from Councilmember Rodriguez, from a pilot in Councilmember Rodriguez's district, where there was a very clear protocol in terms of how you worked with LAHSA, what happened when, how many days of outreach there was, what the role of LAHSA was, what LA Sands role was, and how the two groups communicated. And it wasn't just LAHSA, it was also LAHSA and LA Family Housing in that case. And I was just wondering, that kind of protocol, that outline of what that policy is in terms of the relationship between outreach workers and LA Sand, is that spelled out for other kinds of engagements related to homeless encampments that you're responding to? Or is that something that, council districts are putting together, or maybe at a site-by-site level they're putting together? I'm kind of curious about how that relationship is governed and what it looks like at the whole city level.
Absolutely. And that structure had worked in years past between service providers, sanitation, council offices, as far as coordinating and moving efforts forward. with the basically consolidation with the Unified Homeless Response Center, and in that coordination of that office, that really pulled together sanitation, other service agencies on the city side, including Rec and Parks, Fire Department, service providers, and then also the service providers, whether it's LAHSA or others, to coordinate these cleanups. We share our projected calendar, the schedule of service locations prioritized by the council offices, so that everyone working together has a full, clear picture of what's happening. And that started really in the formation of that in 2019 in October, when that process began. So that's been the groundwork that's been laid at this point.
So other than individual pilots or individual, engagements at particular encampments, the relationship between outreach workers and LA SAN is really being driven through the UHRC right now.
And through prior relationships that we've had with service providing agencies over the years. So we've worked with HOPIX, PATH, People Concerned, other agencies.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rahman. Mr. De Leon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Mr. President. For concerned citizens who we hear from daily about illegal dumping and cleanliness in certain neighborhoods, how can constituents, the general public engage and assist? Since it seems a lot of people are now interested in sanitation practices, and how do we include those that want to constructively work together?
Right. Thank you for that question. Obviously, first and foremost, reporting. Reporting is key in ensuring that any dumping that does take place is reported. We have two ways that we address illegal dumping, both on the enforcement and as well as the servicing, right? So we have environmental compliance officers under our Watershed Protection Division that do enforcement, do surveillance as it relates to dumping throughout the city. That's one part of it. But the other part of it is for us collecting that material as soon as possible, because it is a public health and safety issue if dumping is left out there for a long period of time. Through the mobile app, I know more education is key as it relates to reporting through the mobile app, ensuring that folks understand the services that are offered, as well as our 24-hour customer care center that folks can call any time of the day. That's open 24 hours, 7 days a week. So those are ways in educating and ensuring that items are being reported for a more rapid response. The other part that we're trying to achieve, council member, is the proactive side of it. It's one thing to be reactionary, but for us, being proactive is the key. And understanding areas that have chronic dumping and targeting those areas, not just on the surveillance side, but on the collection side, to ensure that we're not just responding to service requests. We're out there surveying certain areas throughout the city where we know dumping occurs. So that's the part of the illegal dumping program that we're trying to enhance currently, and ensuring that we kind of get both ends of it.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. As I think we all know collectively, having a clean city, having clean neighborhoods, clean parks is so important to everybody, regardless of which part of town that you live in. And I think that the general public and citizens in LA are more actively getting engaged, especially when it comes to illegal dumping. And obviously during this COVID pandemic period, we've seen such a huge increase, as a result, but especially in my neighborhood that I represent in Boyle Heights, where folks are coming from other parts of the county of LA, from other cities, and sort of under the cloak of darkness coming in and unloading all of their trash, their junk onto our city streets, in alleyways and so forth. So as sanitation for a whole variety of issues, right? Whether it's Care Plus, the controversy or non-controversy for some folks, the issue with regards to homelessness, just dumping, Ms. Krikourian, spoke, in great detail, his own backyard and all the overpasses that Caltrans, own. And I think we see it throughout the city. So, sanitation is you guys are probably one of the busiest, without question, departments that we have, and one of the most important departments. Other cities may have snowstorms, and they got to clear out storms, snow, on the East Coast or parts of the Midwest. For us here, it's a question of trash that accumulates and not just being reactive, but to your point, being proactive. Gabriel and Pepe, let me ask you the following questions, and if it goes to Domingo and Howard as well, please chime in. What is your perspective? I can share mine, and it's not anecdotal. It's not based on any, deep research. That of my staff as well too. But with the illegal dumping, especially in downtown Los Angeles, in the Skid Row area, where we have a large concentration of unhoused community members, the largest in the city. But there's always been a narrative as well too that the unhoused community is almost exclusively responsible for a lot of the trash or the dumping. And again, I just say this anecdotally. We found the case, especially during the past several months, especially during Valentine's Day, that a lot of this dumping are actually from the merchants themselves in and around this district. That almost entirely the vast majority of the dumping is from merchants who are just unloading, in a very brazen manner. I just want to sort of kind of contrast if there's some similarity patterns and trends that you see, or is this just something that, we kind of are viewing through our own very unique prism?
So Councilman, allow me to lay down a foundation. Prior to COVID, there was a service level to the merchants and other businesses that was X. COVID hit, businesses shut down, people started to cut back on their services because they weren't generating that volume as they would historically. As July came around, August, and they started to kind of open a little bit but close, people still were leery about spending where they didn't need it or they weren't sure of. So fast forward, where we are today is we are canvassing as many businesses. Again, resources are limited. So if I had a restaurant and I just opened up a month ago, do I have the adequate service that I need? If I'm a textile company that generated X before, but now I've got a stockpile of material that I really don't want to spend an extra 2 or 3 collection cycles, and I still may be served, So economy kind of dictated where the service providers were prior to and then after. So we right now are in a campaign to see that as businesses open up and start to get more regularized and generating the same volumes again, that they have the same type and or adequate frequency of service through their service providers, if that makes any sense. So this is what we saw in the fashion district, in the produce district, in the toy district, if you're relaying to the downtown area. But other neighborhoods in the valley, the construction was also hit. And down in the harbor, the automotive industry, the garages, the junkyards, that kind of stuff. So it all took a hit. If you want to put it in perspective, everybody said, time out to my regular service. I'm opening up. Maybe I can get away with that. What do I do with this material? I just take it over here and dump it over here. So it's a kind of systematic knock on your door. Let me see your invoices. Let me make sure that you're operating 100% with the adequate service that you're required to have for your business. So that's kind of like a foundation.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Jose, it's sort of it's sort of like this collective sort of contribution from everyone across the board, and obviously not just in downtown LA, but obviously, as you point out, the harbor, the valley, and elsewhere, where during this pandemic, folks just unloaded openly and brazenly, whether on the street corners or in alleyways. They just unloaded, because if you're homeless, obviously, and you don't have access to any trash receptacles, or not enough, if you will, obviously, regardless if you're homeless, you're going to generate trash just like anybody else. Perhaps you won't generate the same amount as a household would, but you will generate trash. But, it's been interesting how the conflation has been that unhoused individuals are almost entirely responsible for, tons of trash, sometimes it's a very difficult narrative to sort of shake off, but it's just sort of anecdotally, again, we've seen so much folks have dumped, tons of trash, and these are legitimate business owners, who have decided for a variety of reasons to not go through the proper channels, via LA Sanitation, Department Bureau, and have decided to take matters to their own hands, whether they hire folks or whether they have hired folks to unload and take their stuff and dump it again under the cloak of darkness and make it someone else's problem, as a result, so it becomes someone else's problem. They're loading off and dumping off, elsewhere. So, I just want to convey, I think Mr. Krikorian, very eloquently showered you all with many accolades, and I think they are very well deserving, because I know that you all work very hard collectively. I've had the personal experience with you, Pepe, as well as Gabriel, in Skid Row specifically, where you guys have been very responsive, not just to the issue of sanitation, but also to the issue of the needs of our unhoused community members. I know that I think Friday, we spent half the day, if not the whole entire day, in Skid Row, at downtown's Women's Center, which was quite an experience. So, but it's not lost on me that you guys really stepped up with tents, stepping up to the meeting the occasion, as it deserves. So I just want to say thank you very much.
So Councilman, if I could just add, I don't want to blame the entire homeless community on that illegal dumping component. The homeless community kind of benefit from that large volume disposal of materials such as wood or furniture or anything else. They tend to drag it to their encampments, and it just makes it bigger. They didn't generate it, but benefit from it. And so the idea here is how do you cut it off? And like Mr. Miranda said, that we know historically where these constant dumps or these quiet, dark spots where people dump material, and then it migrates into an encampment. So we need to, and to Mr. Orozco's point, we have bolstered our illegal dumping capacity or teams to address just those issues, to make sure we remove the material before it migrates into an encampment. So, and that's our objective, is how do we address all these little pockets throughout the city, from the valley to the harbor, effectively and in a timely manner. And that's all resources. And so when you're juggling right now, am I gonna do a Care Plus or an illegal dumping? You're kind of balancing that out, and what has more priority over the other. But adequate resources give us the opportunity to address both simultaneously.
All right,
Mr. I understand. Just, Madam President, let me just add this one last thing in conclusion. And I hear what you're saying, Pepe. I think the unhoused community members are recycling material goods that are right there, given the fact that obviously they don't have a home. So they're going to do what they're going to do on the hustle, a la brava, to put a roof over their head in any which form, way, or shape. So if the materials arrive illegally, they're going to utilize them. I will utilize them if I was in that position too, because ultimately, collectively, this governance body, along with the executive branch, along with the county board of supervisors, and the state legislature, the governor, and the federal government are going to have to come up with a global solution to put the housing, over their heads in a constructive way. So thank you very much, Pepe. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Bonin.
Thank you, Madam President. And let me sort of join the echo of the rest of the council in thanking sanitation for working so closely with my office and my district staff. I want to thank you really in particular for working so hard with us to try to come up with a more cooperative effort on 3rd and Rose in Venice, and try to cut down on sort of the history of contentiousness and confrontation, which I think I hope is easier for the people who are living there unhoused, as well as for staff. And I want to thank also for the work you've done with installing the dumpster. near Pico and Centinela, that encampment there. And both of those things raise a couple different issues I just wanted to ask about. We talked a lot about trash cans. How often do we have dumpsters installed at encampments right now, at larger encampments?
Not very often, Councilmember Bonin. We utilize more of the smaller, useful receptacles. We have three main type of receptacles, which is the automated litter bins. We also have the green wire baskets, then we have the solar big bellies. The new addition is going to be the rodent-proof trash cans, actually soon to be installed in CD11. But dumpsters do pose challenges for us as it relates to less control for what they're needed for, which is trash, debris, litter, and not, for instance, someone that may use it for their own personal dumping,
Sure.
Any type of illegal dumping, things of that nature. So it's a little bit more challenging. We have tried it in certain areas. I think it works in certain areas better than others. It is something that we're still looking at and observing to see how we can do it, because it would require less frequency of collection to have a bigger dumpster bin. But it really does depend on the location. We have a few of them in the Skid Row area as well. And also looking at different prototypes. There's different models out there that may work better than others. So those are things that we're consistently looking at.
Yeah, I think with the dumpster, with even the wire bins, it's hard to keep up with how much stuff is in them. With the dumpsters in particular, certainly some of it is illegal dumping. It's people, I mean, I drive by Pico and Centinela all the time, and there's no way that encampment produces half of the stuff, if not more, that is in that dumpster. There's just no way possible. So that has required your team to have to try to clean it more often. And sometimes that's the case with the green bins as well. Is it fair to say that you're just currently not resourced properly to empty either the bins or the dumpsters or the other trash cans at the frequency that we need it?
Well, that was one of the things that we did on the redesign. Although, yes, staffing challenges, but making that an independent commodity. So prior to that, the care teams were responsible, for instance, for servicing the wire baskets. But as we deployed more wire baskets, obviously it requires a lot of time and a lot of burden on the care teams, which have the other responsibility of focusing on the work that they're doing throughout the district. So having that as an independent commodity now under the receptacle program, we're seeing a lot more efficiencies that way, because that is the sole responsibility of the crew that's servicing those bins, is all day servicing receptacles and understanding what the frequency is. So we have frequency of collections that range anywhere from 1 day to 7 days a week. And these programs need to operate on Saturdays and Sundays as well, because the trash needs to get picked up. So we've seen some definite enhancements over the course of the past 2 months with being able to service those on an independent side rather than having to have the quote unquote care teams do that work in the morning.
All right, that's good to hear. I mean, my sense is we just need more of them, and I'm glad to hear that there's more on the way. I mean, I haven't talked to anybody who's living in an encampment who doesn't want sanitation, that doesn't want their what is their home, unfortunately, doesn't want it cleaned and more sanitary. And one of the things that has sometimes worked is in advance of a posted cleanup, a day or so ahead, people having, in addition to the trash cans, trash bags, so that they can actually fill stuff in advance. And then when sanitation crew arrives, there's bags of stuff easy to pick up. You don't need to go from tent to tent and stuff like that. How often are we able to do that? And since it requires advanced work, does that require volunteer partners to help?
Yeah, volunteer partnerships definitely help in that regard. We purchased actually green trash can liners, so they're clearly identifiable, and then being placed next to receptacles. So for instance, if there's in excess of trash or garbage from that particular day, rather than having an overflowing receptacle, it could be a bag that can be disposed of. So that's actually worked really, really well. We've been doing that now for a few months, and we have that in inventory. So we'll continue to work with your office and the other 14 offices on making sure that you have access to those, and your field deputies and coordinating there. But that's been a huge plus for us.
Glad to hear that. In terms of the steam cleaning or the bleaching or the more intense cleaning of the sidewalks that requires people to move their tents, I know one of the reasons people have been reluctant in the past in some places is they weren't given good instruction on where they actually could safely, legally move their stuff in the interim, or they had trouble physically moving it. Again, volunteers can sometimes help with the moving of stuff, but how are we doing at being able to identify areas for people that when a cleanup is happening, this is where you can safely be maintaining your stuff and it won't be seized?
Councilman Bonin, as far as regarding where a safe area is at, typically when it's our Care Plus operations, we'll close off the area appropriately for our work zone. So any place outside of that work zone is appropriate as long as the individuals are safe, right? They're not in the middle of the street or any place like that. And in addition to that, regarding our enhanced services, we do have pop-up shelters near our shower stations where individuals can stay and wait for a shower and or rest until the cleanup is done for that particular block. We typically close off a block at a time, a location at a time, block location at a time.
Okay, we can talk a little bit more about that offline, something I want to pursue a little bit more. A question about the tents. I know that not only does sanitation distribute tents and trade out tents, and thank you for that, so does LAHSA, but I understand that the tents are different sizes, different structures, and I can't remember which, but one of them is a lot harder to disassemble. You need to actually wrap it up into like a tight circle or something. You can't just drag it or something. And I can't remember which, but is there any conversation with LAHSA about having something uniform so that it's sort of easier?
So one of the things, council member, that we do on our side very quickly as part of the response to this, just to allow for safer at home and exchange or just distribution if someone needed one. It's a very small 2-person tent. I'm about 6'1", 200 pounds. 2 of me can lay in it side by side, just to give you an idea of size. But it is a pop-up tent, so it's designed for easy collapse storage, kind of like a sunshade for a car vehicle window, so that it's able to be transported.
Okay, and have we had any conversations with LAHSA about any sort of uniformity or protocol?
We're willing to work with them and figure that out. We get it through our vendor for the mobile hygiene unit.
Okay, all right. And just last question, Ms. Rahman asked about storage facilities and working with different offices. I know that we had talked about using a closed down sanitation yard in my district. I haven't had a chance to catch up to see where the latest is on that, because I know that that would help considerably in my part of town.
Yeah, we would love to continue to work with your office on the development of that site.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Mr. Blumenfield?
Thank you. And also want to reiterate what folks have said. You guys have an incredibly tough job, and we don't take enough time to appreciate that. So, you know, today's a day where we get to do that a little bit. And so thank you for the work that you're doing. It is not easy. On the storage side of things, I totally agree. In fact, we're trying to do a pilot project in my district with LAHSA to create more storage, not just for folks on the street, but for folks who end up in like bridge homes or these other houses. Because what we've found is that oftentimes someone is in the bridge home and they have tools or other things that are that they're not allowed to keep. So they keep a storage tent somewhere, or they keep something else. And I don't know how you clean that up. You don't want to throw away someone's stuff. But if after we've found somebody housing that they're still keeping tents on the street, that's a problem as well. I don't know if you have any particulars of how you deal with that issue, but I'm open to hearing that, and then I have some other questions as well. Of the issue of having, storage tents that are outside that are not being used for habitation.
Councilmember, as far as storage tents being utilized for not as habitation, we unfortunately can't discriminate as far as what personal property is on the property, on the public right of way. Essentially, if it's blocking ADA, we're going to treat it as such, personal property. If we will store it, if it doesn't meet the health hazard determination, and if it does meet a health hazard determination, then it'll be disposed of accordingly. As far as storage, it goes into our involuntary storage for up to 90 days,
Right.
and we'll put a post-removal notice for individuals to claim. I mean, as far as that goes.
Yeah, so I mean, anyway, we need to think about what additional funds are needed for some of these extra storage opportunities, because I think storage is a key to this. Also, I wanted to comment a little bit. We were talking earlier, a couple of council members, about different protocols, and I hear us conflate some of the protocols. There were the protocols that were like on the Bradley Paxton protocols when folks were being offered housing and that area was going to be cut off with a fence, or like the golf Penmar at Mr. Bonner's district, where they were offering people housing, but then they cut it off with a fence. And then you have protocols for, like in my district, where we were able to find people housing in the underpasses, but we did not have a fence. The lead up protocols were pretty similar in that we created the 14 days notice and lots of outreach and all of those things. But then the follow-up protocols, they're really, if you're not putting up a fence, there's not a lot of follow-up. Those are different kinds of protocols than with comprehensive cleanups, because on a cleanup, obviously it's very different. You don't have the 14 days of intense outreach that you do when you're actually, closing off an area, because the outreach is to make sure that the people at that site have enough time so that they're not caught off guard when they have to come in for the temporary cleaning. And this is an issue I think is we need to do better, and we need to figure out how we can get to make sure, and it's not so much sanitation, it's really the outreach, to make sure that these folks have the outreach so that they know that the posted cleanup is really going to happen and they're prepared. Because I've gone out, we've had 3 or 4 comprehensive cleanups since my bridge home was open. And each one, I've been concerned about whether people really know that it's happening. So I've gone out the night before personally with my team to those places and talked to all of the homeless people who were in the area that was going to be cleaned up, to make sure that people know. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. Obviously, we give them the notice right then and there as well. But there's also a fair amount of people who you can give them that notice. But I mean, just on Sunday, I was talking to a woman. She's just not all there. And as many times as you explain it to her, she's not gonna get it. It's a mental health issue. And so we need to also have, as part of those protocols, that we get mental health workers out there in advance to talk with folks, and that the outreach workers that we have are there not just to notify people, but to help them understand what's happening, and ideally help them move in advance so that nobody is caught with that time where they're saying, oh, there's only 15 minutes. I've got to move all my stuff in 15 minutes. Because that's horrible to have that situation. And that's not on sanitation, that's on outreach. Because outreach needs to be out there explaining it to folks that it's noticed, and and doing what they can to help people. And frankly, I've seen it happen with there's a couple of folks, local nonprofit groups who work with Pastor Huck and others who do a great job prior to the cleanups of going out there and not just notifying people, but doing the hard work and helping them go through and giving them trash bags in advance. So this needs to be a partnership, and we need to engage with those folks. But that's where I worry about how the protocols for the comprehensive cleanups is not just the posted notice, but how do we actually get the outreach workers to the sites so that nobody's caught off guard, and that when it does happen, and there is a cleanup which is needed, that people are prepared, and ideally they've moved well in advance. Now, that's not really a question. I know that's just a long rambling comment, but I guess I'll throw it to you in terms of, what more you think could be done on the outreach side to facilitate your work so that it's easier to do your work. Because clearly it would be easier if when you got there, everybody had their trash in a neat pile, and folks had were well aware and moved out of the site. You didn't have to deal with folks on the ground. It didn't have to deal with any sort of confrontations.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Bloomingfield. And we agree, there can never be enough outreach prior to and on the day of. And when that happens, we see what happened at Paxton and Bradley, what happened with the underpasses in your district. It's a successful operation. And having us there on the date that folks are going into housing is equally as important to ensure that the property does not become abandoned. We have protocols in place to make sure that we're documenting each item, and we need to ensure that we know who the item belongs to and that that individual actually did get housed. We're not going to assume that. So us being there on the date that an individual is being housed is very important for us to assist with the property. And to Councilmember Price's question earlier, it really depends on how much property they can take with them to the particular site that they're going to seek housing at. And we will assist with that.
Yeah, although I don't want to conflate and maybe conflate the issues. That's one thing when you're dealing with somebody getting housing, but the more regular issue is the cleanups. Is when you're doing a comprehensive cleanup, unfortunately, that is not the same protocols because folks are not getting housing necessarily there. They're just, that's about street maintenance and folks, and you're coming in on a regular basis. And those are the protocols that are different than the Bradley Paxton protocols because they deal with street maintenance, not, housing and clearing an area. So, the question is what are the protocols that you need or that should be different, or how differently should you be working with outreach workers to make sure that those cleanups are smooth?
Right, and that just comes with advanced coordination. So the protocols we have in place today are ensuring that the outreach providers do know the locations that are going to be serviced, and that gets filtered through the Unified Homelessness Response Center to ensure that that outreach did take place. In addition to that, the permanent signage that is around a bridge home allows for the notice of when it's taking place. And then what we do is allow for the individual to have up to 30 minutes to temporarily relocate. So we do allow for that grace period of time when we do arrive as well, understanding those variables that you mentioned.
Thank you.
Mr. Harris Dawson?
Thank you. And thank you, members, for your thoughtful questions and discussions. I don't want to belabor the point, but I did want to register my voice in just tremendous thanks to all of you for doing what I consider God's work. The situation in this city has made a job that should be straightforward. You see trash, you pick it up, made it into a complicated labyrinth of social, economic, and logistical procedures where you actually have to remember court decisions when you go out to do your work, which I'm sure nobody signed up for when they came to work for sanitation. So I thank you all for doing that. And I have one question and then just one follow-up comment. In District 8, your teams, you may know this or you may not know this, have really worked with us in a sort of an experimental program to do cleanups without LAPD officers in the immediate vicinity. In my district, the presence of an armed government worker can be traumatic for lots of people. All you have to do is turn on the evening news to see why that's the case. And I know in the beginning there was some resistance to that, but you all have done that. We've cleared now, I think 3 sites, and we worked on a couple more. I'm just curious if you've gotten any feedback from your team members on those processes. And if so, what that's been and how you think that program might be expanded. Just, for further detail, we use lots of outreach workers and multidisciplinary teams, as well as gang and community intervention workers on those sites to participate in the outreach and to help create a peaceful process to do those cleanups. I'm just curious if you've gotten any feedback, positive or negative, in that regard.
Thank you, Council Member. We'll take a look and talk with our staff and see what any particulars have come out of that.
Thank you. The last thing I'd like to say, and then I'll close, I just want to thank the Council President for holding this conversation. This conversation is consistent with what happens when you go to a block club or neighborhood council meeting. These are the kinds of issues folks are asking about in it, and it's nice that on the council, we have the opportunity and the time to have such a discussion that's reflective of what's happening in our community. It's very, very important to almost every neighborhood, I think, certainly in my district, but in the city. So thank you, Madam Chair, for facilitating this process.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Madam President. And I too want to echo the immense gratitude to Pepe and Domingo, Howard, Gabriel. Thank you guys for the work that you do every day. And, you know, we just last week, we heard the Paxton and Bradley, we had engaged in the second conversation around the Paxton and Bradley protocols. And just to, you know, reaffirm, I think, our universal commitment here is that it's not about the frontward facing sanitation services, but it's about leading with outreach. And it's about holding LAHSA accountable to that process in that outreach effort that further helps to accelerate the progress that we're all seeking to achieve here. You know, Mr. Harris Dawson, you know, in that circumstance at Paxton and Bradley, we had zero LAPD participation. And we know that it works when it works at the direction of this coordinated effort with respect to outreach. And so, you know, I know Mr. Ridley Thomas, we're having that again come back at the next meeting for action. But colleagues, yes, what we need is that systematic approach. And you know, there's, you know, it's been difficult. Obviously, we've all been frustrated so much by this who's on first with LAHSA and, you know, the outreach work and the sanitation services, but we know that it's we have to weave that together to instruct that work in a manner that is actually going to result in productive outcomes that we all want. And what we all want is the individuals to be housed. And that has really been, I think, one of the greatest markers of that effort. So. Anyways, I look forward to continuing that conversation. Thank you, Madam President, for holding this, convening this opportunity for all of us. And again, my thanks to sanitation for your work and your partnership.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Mr. Ridley Thomas?
Madam President, just a shout out to sanitation. When they show up, they are capable of showing out, such as the case by way of illustration. Leimert Park Village just last week, organically pursued with business owners, constituents, that is stakeholders who live in the immediate area, a collective effort that restored a level of semblance of orderliness and cleanliness to the village that they hadn't seen in many years. Were it not for the capacity, the infrastructure that sanitation brought to bear, that could not have been accomplished. So let the record reflect that there was no fuss, no muss, it was orderly, no drama, and much to be celebrated. It's worth mentioning that because it seems to me that's replicable, and I think praise ought to be given where praise is due. It causes me to think about a comprehensive crisis response strategy as relates to houselessness. Sanitation is fundamentally important to the extent that we know that we continue to advance a framework. Madam President and colleagues, it seems to me that we have to be rather intentional about the progress that can be made, is being made, and will be made when we are able to coherently think through what it means to restore a sense of purpose and dignity to the lives of the individuals who are yet homeless, who are houseless, in the communities of which they are part, that want, deserve, and demand a higher quality of life. Madam President.
Thank you, members. I don't see any other members on the queue. There is no action to be taken on this issue. It's just for purpose of discussion. I do want to just reiterate again my thanks to Pepe and the team, and just remind members that LAHSA, that sanitation does not hold LAHSA accountable, we do as policymakers. And that conversation is long overdue, and we'll be having that conversation in the near future about our relationship as it deals with LAHSA moving forward. So with that, members, I appreciate your commitment to continuing to have these difficult conversations, and we will continue to move forward. With that, Madam Clerk, what's before us now?
Madam President, Council has motions for posting and referral. Motions will be posted on the City Clerk's website shortly after the meeting for the public's viewing. To subscribe to receive copies of today's council motions to your email, please visit clerk.lacity.org.
Okay, posted and referred. Are there any announcements? Seeing none, any adjourning motions? Mr. Lee?
Thank you, Madam President. Like all of us, we unfortunately get phone calls at different times of day, from different departments, sometimes from LAPD when incidents happen in our district. The call that I received Saturday morning was probably the most disturbing call about some horrific information that I received in the 7 or 8 years that I've been receiving these phone calls. The information that I received was that a grandmother working the graveyard shift came home to her apartment to find her 3 grandchildren, all under the age of 3, murdered in her apartment. I can't even imagine the dark place that a person has to be in to commit these horrific acts. I'm sure none of us can even wrap our brains around how anyone could ever be in that state of mind to be able to commit something as just disturbing as what happened in my district in Reseda. For far too long, every level of our government has failed to adequately provide the funding that we so desperately need towards, mental illness facilities, to be able to help the people in our communities that need help. I'm not saying that, we could have had all the services in the world and we may not have been able to reach out to this one person, but I hope that this is a reminder to all of us that we need to do whatever we can to advocate to every level of government for as much funding and as much attention as this very important issue needs, so that we never ever have to ever experience anything like this family, of what this family is going through right now. Thank you, Madam President.
Mr. Lee, thank you very much for journeying in the memory of these 3 beautiful little children. I read this story about this family and what their mom must have been going through, and it just goes to show you that in this country, we just simply don't do enough to support moms and to support women who give birth, which at times can be incredibly beautiful, but at sometimes there are dark times where it's absolutely traumatic. And I think we need to continue to advocate for resources for moms, for women who give birth, because not all of us have the same experiences. And I truly believe that she needed help and that the system probably failed her and her children and the entire family. So with your permission, Mr. Lee, I'd like to adjourn, and I'd like this to make an all-council member adjournment in the memory of these 3 beautiful little souls. Mr. Blumenfield?
Thank you, and thank you for expanding that to the entire council. Mr. Lee and I share the community of Reseda, and I got notice of the same thing, even though it was in your part of the district, and it's just horrifying what happened there. But I ask that we rise to adjourn in the memory of former Assistant LAFD Chief Frank Borden. He passed away on April 9th, 2021. And Frank was an icon in emergency management and preparation here in the city and across the country. It's without hyperbole to say that Frank was a legend to those of us who focus on emergency management, which has always been a big priority for me. And this guy was, bigger than big. I mean, he was the innovative founder of the CERT program, which stands for the Community Emergency Response Team. In 1986, after visiting Japan and Mexico to study their response to the horrible earthquakes there, he not only brought back knowledge, but he basically invented a way to completely change the game back here in the US. CERT brings together willing volunteers to learn and prepare for the community in the event of a major disaster. The first time CERT was officially deployed was to the Whittier Narrows earthquake. And in fact, 7 years later, FEMA established Frank's CERT program as the national standard for life-saving training and operation. And after 36 years of leadership at LAFD, he continued to develop emergency plans, training programs to save lives and care for folks during many disasters. He's called the father of CERT for good reason, and he'll be greatly missed, but his legacy is strong. His innovative work will continue to help people be prepared for emergencies and will continue to save many, many lives. May Frank Borden rest in peace.
Thank you, Mr. Brimfield. Seeing no other adjourning motions, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.